Peace, peace. Greetings to you all. It's your brother Naheem, BKA Lord Abbott, aka Mr. Just the Facts. I got my brother Dr. Logic Supreme in the building. Tonight's discussion is gonna shout out to my mods first and foremost. Shout out to all the mods. I see y'all in the chat. Hit like, hit I hear. Oh, okay. Hit like, hit share. Let people know that we're having an important discussion tonight because our focus is always so wrapped up in what I like to call the pageantry of presidential elections, and it does us a disservice. You know, I was talking to like some family members, and they have so much disgust for Donald Trump, and one of my family members was like, I just can't wait till that mother get out of office. I can't wait for him to get out of office. And I'm just saying to myself, like, yeah, but the guy that's gonna come in he's no better. This dude, he messed up our family. I ain't say that. I just chill. Sometimes we gotta just listen and take this stuff in, especially when you're dealing with the older generation. They want us focused on the presidential elections, in my opinion. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. Everybody knows that. But I believe that if you can get us away from local elections, then the people that maintain power in the United States of America, they maintain that power. My brother Logic is going to come in. Y'all already know he's going to bring that fire from the political aspect, and he's going to break that down. And I want to go to the House Explained. I want to start this off by giving a little lesson, because we got some people that watch this channel that that basically come from the streets, from where I come from, right? Where most of us come from, matter of fact. So what I want to do is I want to read through the House Explained real quick, because I want to preface tonight's discussion with a basic understanding of how the House of Representatives, how the Senate, how Congress itself works. And we need to understand how Congress works. I'm going to get into what we're calling the reparations Quran on this end, and that's from here to equality. And so let me start reading. Okay, this is from house.gov, and it's the House Explained. It says, we the people of the United States, as per the Constitution, the U.S. House of Representatives makes and passes federal laws. The House is one of Congress's two chambers. The other is the U.S. Senate, and part of the federal government's legislative branch. The number of voting representatives in the House is fixed by law at no more than 435, proportionally representing the population of the 50 states. So essentially, the name representative it explains itself. Representative. These are people whom we elect to represent us at the federal level, because there are things that can be done at the federal level that cannot necessarily be done at the state level. And I'm going to get into some of that as well. So it says, what is a representative? Also referred to as a congressman or congresswoman, each representative is elected to a 2-year term serving the people of a specific congressional district. Among other duties, representatives introduce bills and resolutions, offer amendments, and serve on committees. The number of representatives with full voting rights is 435, a number set by public law 62-5 on August 8, 1911, and in effect since 1913. The number of representatives per state is proportionate to population. So basically, the smaller the population, the less representatives. The larger the population, the more representatives. Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution provides for both the minimum and maximum sizes for the House of Representatives. Currently, There are 5 delegates representing the District of Columbia, the Virgin Islands, Guam, American Samoa, and the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. A resident commissioner represents Puerto Rico. The delegates and resident commissioner possess the same powers as other members of the House, except that they may not vote when the House is meeting as the House of Representatives. To be elected, a representative must be at least 25 years old, a United States citizen for at least 7 years, and an inhabitant of the state he or she represents. So anyone can be a representative, right? You don't only the presidency and the vice presidency requires one to be a natural born United States citizen to be a representative. So you could move here from another country, i.e. or e.g., no, i.e. rather, Ilhan Omar out of Minnesota, et cetera, and you can become a representative. Of course, we need more of our representatives from our particular group, ADOS, America's Descendants of Slavery, but my brother Logic is going to break that down in a few minutes. House leadership. This is one of the most important positions. And again, you know, we have our conversations and our back channel conversations, and my brother Logic was breaking down just the other day how the House leader is one of the most powerful people in the United States government. So, you know, again, we're going to get into some of that. So let me read. House leadership includes the Speaker, majority, and minority leaders. And we know Nancy Pelosi is the House leader because the Democrats hold a majority of the seats. Assistant leaders, whips, and party caucus or conference. The Speaker acts as leader of the House and combines several institutional and administrative roles. Majority and minority leaders represent their respective parties on the House floor. So basically, we have representatives elected by us, the people, and they elect among themselves a leader to represent the group, if you will, the party on the House floor, depending on who has the majority. It continues. Whips assist leadership in managing their party's legislative program on the House floor. A party caucus or conference is the name given to a meeting of or organization of all party members in the House. During these meetings, party members discuss matters of concern. I can skip that part, go down. I mean, I want to just read this part before I move on. Commissions. Congress has created a wide variety of temporary and permanent commissions to serve as advisory bodies for investigative or policy-related issues or to carry out administrative, interparliamentary, or commemorative tasks. Such commissions are typically created by either law or House resolution and may be composed of House members, private citizens, or a mix of both. In some cases, and we're going to get to that, the commissions are entities of the House of Congress, or entities of the House or Congress itself. In other cases, they are crafted as independent entities within the legislative branch. Examples of commissions: Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission, Commission on Security and Cooperation in Europe, House Page Board, a permanent congressional advisory group created by law and made up of House members, etc. So I'm going to stop sharing here. And the reason why that's important, right? And I wanted to get through that because when we're dealing with reparations as reparationists for America's descendants of slavery, we have to make sure that everything that's being done for us is on the level. It has to be a righteous cause, because when abolitionism was going on, and please, anybody correct me if I'm wrong, but I found no instances where there were outside groups trying to wedge themselves into the discussion for some type of either political or monetary gain, like we see in HR 40, as my brother Logic and the team and I have broke down several shows ago on HR 40 when we were talking about GS 18 governmental pay, right? So I want to read that part again. It says, such commissions are typically created by either law or House resolution and may be composed of House members, private citizens, or a mix of both. What happens is you have some nefarious groups who are trying to come in and basically, as we say in the streets, eat off of studying reparations over the next 5 years or 6 years or however many years it would take. And this is why the provisions that Dr. Darity give and from here to equality, I'm going to get into some of that a little later on, is going to be vital in understanding why that commission should only last for 18 months, because we don't need any grifters, or we don't need anybody trying to come in and just eat and see a bag of money and say, oh, I can live off of this commission for the next couple of years. Brother Logic, you want to come on and go in, brother? You on mute, bro.
Peace, fam. Peace. Today's discussion, we gotta have to understand the importance of it right off the bat, right? We talking about a congressional focus. We saw how, the ADOS movement with the expert and masterly conversation and data and work that Yvette and Tone have put in, and Dr. Darity with the wealth data and everything like that, to even bring this whole new wave of political awareness to the forefront with the ADOS movement. And you understand, so they brought that during an election year, a general election, and made it a conversation all the way up to the presidential campaigns. You can't remember a time really where they were talking about reparations during a presidential election. So we're at a point right now where reparations is on the forefront, right? So, but what I want to do today is help all of us come to an understanding of how to really play this game and what steps need to be taken to actually manifest reparations. And from here to equality, Dr. Darity expertly says that, reparations is an invoice that must be filed with the U.S. government, more specifically the United States Congress, right? Because it is Congress that will, but it's Congress that does all of this, right? So we must understand, I think historically even, we've kind of come to a point where after, the formation of the Congressional Black Caucus and all of that, we've kind of lost congressional focus. And we've allowed to just let that branch of the government just kind of run amok in many ways. So now we get to a point where the Congressional Black Caucus is really just another caucus for any minority group, right? And to me, that's a direct link to the lack of congressional focus and attention that we at the grassroots have had. We have to have a congressional focus in our language, in our narrative, in our political agenda. It needs to be talking about Congress, because while we focus on the president, Congress is working and moving in the shadows to do all kind of nefarious things that we pointed out. Naheem already mentioned earlier with HR 40, right? So especially during the midterms, but Congress in general has, now peep this out, family, right? Congress has the lowest approval ratings, but the highest re-election rates, right? Everybody says, Congress don't do nothing. They don't do no job. They don't do it, but we keep re-electing them in the office. You paint a picture of what I'm talking about. Let me pull up some data, right? At the ADOS family, I know y'all are quite used to and have come accustomed to doing the data, right? That's what we do around here, right? We do the data. Now, to paint this picture, I'm going to share a screen. Let me know when you can see it. Let's pull this up. Let's look at this. You want to know what I'm talking about? Look at this. Susan Collins, U.S. Senate, Maine, has been sitting in office since 1997. Right? Look at that. 97. Why is this person still in office? I don't understand. Jack Reed, 1997. Let's get to some more. 1995. Jim, I don't even know how to say that last name, from U.S. Senate in Oklahoma. I mean, we're just in the Senate right now, and look at some of these dates, y'all, and how long these people have been sitting in office. 2007, for Bob Casey, but we have some really, really extraordinary term limits, right? No term limits, right? So just check out some of these numbers. Check out some of these numbers. It is absolutely insane. Let me go to the next chart, and then on top of the amount of disapproval they have with the re-election, look at what's going on. See, we have not had a Congress that has really worked for us, and the Congress has turned the legislature into a cash pot where all they do is just make money. You want me to prove it? Look at the chart, right? Let's look at what they're making. And these are representatives, right? Look how much money they are making. This is some of the highest net worths of our Congress people, right? This is why they're not representing you and me. Look at this guy, Greg, from a Republican from Montana. Net worth, 189 million, right? Almost 200 million. Paul Mitchell, 179 million. Vernon Buchanan, 150. Look at what they're doing. Wow. Look at the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, 114 million she's worth. Let's go on over to the Senate. Whoa, look at this. Rick Scott is worth almost $300 million. And you don't even know these people, right? Y'all, we don't talk about these people. We know the Donald Trumps, we know the big names in politics, but we don't understand that Congress is making all of the policy and all of the legislation that shapes and molds the climate and the environment of society. They're the policy makers, but we focus on the executive office a lot. And look what's happening right underneath our nose. Mark Warren is worth 214 million. Crazy. And then Mitt Romney, 174. And you can just look at some of this stuff all the way down the line, millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. Now, some people say, well, they might just be wealthy. Well, let's take a look at it. Let's talk about it. Right? Let's talk about it. The leaders of both chambers make up the top 10 list. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has seen her wealth increase nearly 115 million from 41 million in 2004. From 2004 to 2019, when this chart was put out, she made 115 million. She went from 41 million to 115 million. The first year Open Secrets began tracking personal finances, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican from Kentucky, saw his net worth increase from 3 million to 34 million during that time. Both political leaders are married to affluent individuals who are driving those increases. Now let's look at the House, because the House was showing let's look at the Senate, right? Let's go here. Let's talk about this real quick. The 116th Congress is flush with newcomers, and many of them have substantial cash. Senator Mitt Romney, a former private equity executive, his net worth is at an estimated 174 million, right? And then we have Mike Braun, Republican from Indiana, who spent $10.5 million of his own money boosting his 2018 campaign, is worth roughly $137 million. Another self-funder and midterm winner. So these guys are coming in with some money, yes, but they're making tons and tons of more money after they get in, right?
Let me say real quick. I just want to say real quick, right? Because as you're breaking this down and showing the people what these congressmen are making, what these senators are making, and we're thinking about reparations, and you got people even among our own group who are, some are usually well off, right? And those are the ones that are usually against reparations. So now you think about how some of these members of Congress are making this money. Somebody brought up Obama with quantitative easing, but then you got defense contractors. I mean, if you're a congressman, you're pretty much going to put your money into defense contractors, because, and then when it's time to go to war, 9 times out of 10, Congress is going to back the war. 9 times out of 10, Congress is going to back a war. Sometimes it depends on the president. Trump, I think when they did the strikes on Syria, if I'm not mistaken, most of Congress was behind that. So these people are making money, and at the end of the day, you have people that may be invested in prisons and a whole bunch of other things that those of us at the bottom, and I'm going to say this, regardless of race, contribute to. So they're invested in keeping people at the bottom, particularly our people. I want to start looking into the money and see what these politicians, or where these politicians have their money invested in. Is it private prisons? And that's why there's no real prison or police reform, right? We need to start like forming our own small research groups and going in from there. And I just wanted to add that, brother, as you was going in, I was thinking about that. What are these people investing in?
Exactly. And all of that is public information. When you become a congressperson, you have to, all of that stuff is open to public. And I'm going to go into some of that right now. But that's like, to know this, I believe we need independent research groups to keep track of what's going on and follow the money. But the message I want to give today is that's our business. If one of these, I don't know where everyone on the chat lives at, but this is your business. This is your civic responsibility and duty to know these people. You should know. If you live in one of the states or one of the senatorial or representative districts of one of these people, whoever they are, it's your business to know. It's your fault if you don't know. You need to know them, because this is a democratic republic and they are representing the people that live in their district. And if you live in their district, you need to know how you're being represented, because there was a whole war. I don't know if y'all missed out on it, called the Revolutionary War, where one of the rallying cries and the war cries was no taxation without representation. So us at the bottom, being of a native Black American descent and this American descendant of the slavery institution, this institution called slavery, we're at the bottom of everything. So how could these people be representing us? And if they are sitting in office, we have to put the pressure on them to start representing equitably in their district. So let's talk about it. The money is very important. So I have to focus on this real quick, right? I'm gonna paint this and have to frame this, and then I'm gonna show you some other stuff later. But I'm gonna come right to some of this. So we talked about the salaries, right? We talked about the affluent spouses that they have, right? Look at this. 2-term Representative Paul Mitchell, Republican from Michigan, saw the largest growth in wealth between 2017 and 2018. The former for-profit college executive average net worth skyrocketed from 101 million to nearly 180 million. Mitchell won't seek re-election this November. Well, I mean, why would he? It seems like he might take a long vacation. Some longtime members of Congress watched their wealth rise to record levels in 2018.
Wait, hold on, bro. That's what you're reading from is not being shared. You got to close this one out and reshare that, whatever you're reading from.
Well, I'll just read it. Don't worry.
Okay, all right.
Right. Okay. So let me hit that. Let me share it again. Then just follow along with me, people, because the money's very important. Don't get bored with that. You got to follow the money. The money lets you know where people's accountability lies. Right. The money lets you know where the account of who people are being held accountable to. And this money ain't coming from us. Right. It says some long-term members of Congress watched their wealth rise to record levels in 2018. Colin Peterson, Democrat, Minnesota, was worth an estimated $123,500,000, right? $123,500 in 2008. The House Agriculture Committee chair's average net assets stood at 4.2 million as of his most recent financial disclosure. We got people going from less than $250,000 to 4.2 million while they sit in office. Let me read this, and then I'm gonna go show you something else to kind of make some more sense on the criminal activity that's going on. And I'm gonna show you why I'm calling it criminal. Representative Judy Chu, Democrat from California, was worth less than six figures in 2008. 1 decade later, her estimated net worth set at 7.1 million. How is this possible? Senator Roy Blunt, Republican from Missouri, increased his net worth from $602,000 to $10.7 million over the last decade. How are they making millions and tens of millions of dollars worth of coming up representing the people? So maybe some people may say, well, maybe they're getting $1 million salaries. Let's go check out some of them salaries real quick. I'm going to stop sharing this, and we're going to hop over to something else real quick.
Indeed. Make sure y'all hit the like button, family. We're going to bring on some of our family from ADOS Chicago in a few minutes and keep this conversation rolling along. So it's going to be a couple Chicago heads up in here versus one New York head, because my brother Ali ain't jump on with me tonight. So I might have to fend off some of that Chicago stuff, y'all.
No, it's all love, man. It's all good. Yeah. So while I'm pulling this up, I just want you to understand, right? When you go into public service, this is not supposed to be a $1 million payday, right? This is not supposed to be something that you get rich off of. This is how you are seeing a captured Congress. And it's up to us. The only reason why they've been able to be captured is because we've allowed it to happen. So we got to understand that if we don't focus on Congress, we'll never get the policies that we want, and we will never get a pure reparations program. All right. So let me share this so y'all can see. Let's look at some of these salaries and see if it adds up, because this stuff ain't adding up. This ain't adding up. How you worth tens and tens of millions and you ain't getting that type of tens and tens of millions in salary? There we go, right here. All right, so I'm gonna start with Jerry Morgan, right? I'm just gonna pick a random. Jerry Morgan from Kansas, right? His base salary is $174,000. His net worth, he 826. That's not too crazy, right? Okay, he's still doing pretty well, but I don't have faith in his ability to represent, and push for reparations, right? So let's look at someone else. Let's look at Nancy Pelosi, right? How much is Nancy Pelosi getting paid? Let me know. Is it going back?
Oh, my bad.
With me, or is it stuck on that same screen?
No. I was telling the people on Facebook to come on over to YouTube. Matter of fact, let me just make that announcement now. And if you're watching on Facebook, y'all come on over to Facebook. YouTube. We're gonna end the stream on Facebook. Come, finish watching this. This is an important show because it's educational. And we need to understand that Congress is where we get our reparations remedy at. And you have a bunch of greedy politicians who are worth millions and millions of dollars. They don't care anything about little people. They are getting fat while in office. They are like ticks subsisting off of the necks of the body of the state, if you will. And we represent the body of the state. So we're going to end the feed on Facebook, y'all. Come on over to YouTube and let's get it on. Then I'm going to bring my ADOS Chicago fam in a few minutes. Yeah, go ahead, Brother Logic.
Yeah. So, like I said, I don't know if my screen is going with
with do you
what
have
I'm
it on
doing.
Ballotpedia?
Can you see what or is it just sitting on that previous screen?
Yeah, I see the Ballotpedia screen.
All right. So instead of just going back and forth, I'm just going to explain it, right? So basically, y'all get the point. Y'all some very swift people. They're getting paid, GS-15 salaries, you know what I mean? Some are in the Senate getting paid GS-18 salaries, but they're not getting paid millions of dollars a year, right? So based on some investments, we can see how, they could do well for themselves, right? But understand, for that type of money and lifestyle, that I ain't even going to the CBC, right? I could go into the CBC and break their resume down, break their salaries down, and get all in their financial business as well. And guess what? That is your business. That's your business as a senator, is to get into their business, to understand what they're doing. As citizens, that's our business. We must know what Congress is up to, and the best way to find out what someone is up to is follow the money. There's another very good website I'm going to throw out here right now for all you reparationists out here. It's called followthemoney.org, right? Followthemoney.org. And it'll show you every campaign contribution from every special interest group, from every corporation, and for every election, from local, state to federal. It's a very resourceful website. You can track anything down there from I'm talking about so much information, right? The search engine is great. And you can see, you have to understand. So what I do, I go see the top 5 contributors. I look at the top 5 corporations that contributed to your campaign, and I look at the top 5 special interest groups that contribute to your campaign, because then I know who you're working for, right? But aside from that, now that we've got that down, why must we as reparationists be focused on Congress, right? So understanding that our work is similar in understanding what we're up against, as the abolitionist opposition was in those days. The abolitionists, they had Lincoln. Lincoln was for abolishing slavery, right? But we couldn't get nothing done until he had to build a pro-abolition Congress, or there was going to be no 13th Amendment, right? Without Congress, you don't get no Civil Rights Act of 1866. You don't get no 13th Amendment. You don't abolish slavery. You don't get any of that. We have to understand how important Congress is. So we can't just, it would be a dream come true to be able to get the president that we want and have, a reparationist and a pro-reparation Congress. But if you had to choose, if I had to choose, right, which one do I think I could get the most out of? Which orange could I squeeze the most juice out of, right? It would have to be Congress. Right. Congress does so many things, right? And we could use Congress to, if we had, let's say, Trump or any other problematic president, right? You can use Congress in more ways than you can use the president, right? The president is an administration, and we know the president can do a lot of things with his executive power and authority. But Congress, look how hard, look how hard Congress fought Obama, right? And everybody said Obama couldn't get nothing done because Congress wouldn't let him do nothing, right? So Congress would be powerful, right? So let's say we had some real representation in Congress. We could use Congress to do all kind of things to offset a very problematic president, a president that wasn't a Biden. Let's look at the options we got. We got Biden and we got Trump, right? The only way to kind of check that kind of authority and power is to have Congress, have access to Congress. So now we're in control of the committees, the judicial committees, the agriculture committees. Congress breaks up into committees, and they not only do that, they oversee all of the hearings, right? So if you have to come give testimony, whether it's and they vet all of the administrative and executive positions. So Congress is doing everything. They doing all the checks and balances. So whatever the president do, Congress is right on there here. Whoever the FBI director is, Congress, head of that, the CIA is, Congress is on them. Got to vet them. Supreme Court. You saw what they did with Obama. They didn't even let Obama pick no Supreme Court. We're not doing that. We gonna wait. We're not doing that. Congress is very, very powerful. Now let me go to something else. If we could dominate Congress, look how we could get things done. We have the Speaker of the House and the Senate leader working with us. The bills that we want to get.
Brother Logic,
be patient.
Your stream is breaking up, bro.
Yeah, it's storming where I'm at. I apologize. It's a storm where I'm at. I hope it doesn't go out, but all the way together. But it's storming where I'm at, so y'all gotta bear with me just a little bit.
Just keep building. But I'm gonna introduce Sister Cynthia McDonald and Brother Arthur D. Ward from ADOS Chicago to join our discussion. Hey, how y'all doing, family? Peace.
Wonderful, brother.
We got Chicago up in the building up in this piece.
Oh my goodness.
This is the preamble to Monday. I wasn't expecting y'all until next week.
Right.
I mean, we building. We building. We on it, brother Logic. Your screen is completely frozen. I don't know if you're trying to say anything. All right, I see you, but yeah, you're going in and out, bro.
Yeah, it's storming where I'm at. There's nothing I can do about it. Savannah, I'm right by the ocean. It's a tropical storm around.
Oh.
It's storming where I'm at, so it's not much I can do about it.
Definitely. So this is what we're gonna do. I want Sister Cynthia McDonald and Brother Arthur Ward to add on to the conversation.
Sure.
Tonight's discussion, we're speaking about Congress and putting our focus on congressional power. Brother Logic was just giving us all a breakdown of how, if we had to choose one, right, if we had to put our proverbial eggs in one basket, are we going to put it in the presidential basket, even if that president was pro reparations, or are we going to put it in the congressional basket? Because as he was saying, Lincoln, who was basically an abolitionist, I guess that's the right term. He was an abolitionist. I got my issues with Lincoln, right?
Right.
But
Sure.
He got the job done, but he had to go around and convince the Congress to get this done. He needed the votes to pass the 13th Amendment. So, y'all jump into the conversation and we'll just flow with it.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Well, you know what? I'm going to give you a little bit of history of my understanding of the importance of the legislature. Now, long time ago, I used to be the assistant director of legislation for the American Postal Workers Union in the Chicago regional area. And my political mentor was John Hall, who I wish was still around because the man was a political genius. black guy. He had a degree in law, but he never took the bar because he just didn't want to be bothered with it. So, but he was astute. So I used to spend a lot of time in Washington with him, dealing with people, members of Congress, dealing with administrators and so forth to deal with postal business as far as postal legislation. And one day, because John and I, when we were in Washington, we'd have our little drinking sprees, and while we were drinking, we'd talk about politics. Okay, I had recently went to an Cobra meeting.
I'm sorry, when you say drinking, you talk about spring water?
No.
I was just trying to clarify.
Wait a minute. If Amos don't know what I be on by now.
I was just
real quick, y'all did see the show last night where he was taking sips of Merlot in between points, right?
I heard him talking about, I had to jump off. I heard him talking about some things, and that's what made me ask the question I just sarcastically asked about spring water. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
So I talked to him about what they were talking about at the Cobra meeting, and I told him about certain things that they had done and so on and so forth. He says, well, he told me, he says, I believe reparations are possible, but they're going about it the wrong way. And I said, what do you mean, John? He says, well, first of all, they're going to courts. And he said, the reason why you don't go to court for something like this, two reasons. First of all, a judge doesn't have anything to lose. When you go into federal court, that's a lifetime appointment. So he can do and say whatever he wants. Number two, any decision that he made, let's say in favor of reparations, would still have to be funded by the government. The House of Representatives makes that decision, not the judge. Okay, so he said that's the wrong place. So I said, where would you put it? He said, well, it's in the legislature. He said, you guys would have to engage your legislators to get them to think in favor of reparations. And I said, really? He says, yes. And this is why. He said, because anything is legislatively possible. Anything is legislative. He said, but the thing is that you have to decide to put in the work to get that to happen, you know. Now, the other thing is that, yes, Dr. Lodger, you were talking a lot about money. Yes, the money is important and where the money comes from is important. But John taught me the importance of being the key. The key is always the most powerful part when it comes to dealing with the government. And what is that? The vote. We as an ADOS have to be vote-centric. And we also have to be focused about who we're putting our votes towards and why we're pointing them in that direction, and also getting our numbers up, because the vote trumps everything. Without the vote, he's not able to go through the door to get the money.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's right. I think also, I'm sorry, go ahead, Elijah.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna agree with you on basically why we really need to be focused more so on Congress. And I think that a lot of it is because of what Congress does. You know, Congress makes laws.
Right.
Congress declares war. Congress can raise money and provide public money and oversee its proper expenditures. They can impeach and try federal officers.
Come on now.
They can approve presidential appointments, as you were saying previously. They can approve treaties negotiated by the executive branch. So, like, even if Trump say that, hey, I want a treaty with this particular country, it's still got to go through Congress in order for them to say yay or nay.
Yes.
And they provide oversight and investigations. You know, that's as soon as that they had a blue Congress, they started opening up all type of oversights and investigations all over the place.
That's right. And the other thing too is that they can also override presidential vetoes.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
So a veto override, and that's what I was going to get to before the storm, trying to interfere with what was going on. And so when I'm saying that, when if you had to pick one, right, to combat with the other, I think our best bet would be we could fight a bad president more effectively if we had a congressional control, more so than we could fight Congress if we had we can get the best president in the world. But if we get a real adversarial Congress, we will never get anything done. And at the end of the day, in order for reparations to manifest, it has to be an act of Congress. Congress has to create a pure program, or they have to legislate into existence a pure reparations program for the American descendants of slavery. That's the only way this reparation thing is going to work properly. It has to be and when I say a program, I'm not talking about like, we're going to do a little program or here and there. I'm talking about a program that is federally funded, just like Social Security is federally funded, and it's continual, it's perpetual. Just like public aid and Medicaid is funded, and it gets put into the budget every year, right? So that's the type of program. So I don't want anyone to think like there's a lot of misconceptions that I think that is kind of creating a obstacle into the support that we need. And people keep talking about like, they just think it's a lot of liquid that's going to be thrown around, but they need to understand. So an infusion of capital has to come. We have to get that infusion of capital. Right. But all of reparations is not just is not cash. Now we're talking about direct. There's a difference between direct payments and cash payments, right? So I'm talking about direct payments to individuals has to go. We're trying to close the racial wealth gap in families. You understand? So we're trying to make families whole and individuals whole so that they can create powerful and strong and complete families. So that has to be done in a very complete way. Now we can get a lousy effort by Congress, and we can get a lousy reparations program. But that's why we have to understand. So when we have all these problematic things, like all these co-signers that have came out of the blue to support that criminal operation called HR 40, right? So we got to understand that, and it is a crime what they're doing. It is a crime, right? And it's costing, it's going to cost us a lot, and they're going to make a lot, and we're going to get nothing if it is allowed to be seen through as it is. But what I'm saying is now, if we understood how important Congress is, and we had that focus, and we organized, and we could coalesce and build coalitions where we're at, we could call up these co-sponsors and say, you know what, we're going to offer you a political consequence for doing the wrong thing.
Well, you know what, I would prefer that you use like a stronger term rather than program. Rather than program of legislation enacted into law.
Indeed.
This programs, because one of the things that John Hall taught me, when you're dealing with legal stuff and legislation, you have to be very precise with your language.
Yes,
and one word can change the whole trajectory of a document. Where you're trying to go, what is it trying to establish, and what is it trying to accomplish? We don't want no program. We want legislation enacted into law.
Now,
I want to real quick. I just want to touch my brother Ali wasn't able to come on tonight. He's not feeling too good. Shout out to my brother Ali. Shout out to my brother Josh. He has some issues going on as well. I want to read this because my brother Arthur was going in. Brother Ali had put in our chat this particular piece, and it's the origination clause, sometimes called the revenue clause, is Article 1, Section 7, Clause 1 of the United States Constitution. This clause says that all bills for raising revenue must start in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as in the case of other bills. And my brother Ali, he said in our chat, he said that's what the Senate did with the CARES Act. They took an older House bill, used it as a shell bill to do the act so that they would be in compliance with the origination clause.
Yes.
That's a powerful observation right there. When we're looking at, what to do with HR 40.
Right.
And so,
that's spot on. I mean, like, I was just thinking about that, exactly what they ended up doing in the Senate. And I know that they're trying to do the same kind of craziness like now with the secondary the stimulus bill.
Mhm.
And, and I know that a lot of the things that they even proposed in the HEROES Act, like, the Senate was just like, nope, 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 hell no, nope, nope, nope. And then and oftentimes one of the complaints that like the constituency even has what's going on right now is because of this continuously back and forth of not being able to agree exactly what the language should be or even what the set aside should be in that even particular bill. Is really holding up a lot of relief that needs to happen in America, period, during this particular crisis. So that was spot on. Shout out Ali.
Yeah, and as far as HR 40 is concerned, we're really wasting our time with that. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine that works on Capitol Hill, and we were talking about HR 40. And my thing was edit or eliminate. That's what we need: edit or die, edit or eliminate. We can't afford to be playing with that anymore.
Yeah, in my opinion, the bill needs to be completely rewritten. And, but I want to bring it back to a point real quick. What Ali said, I want to touch on that, and I want to touch on what you said too, right? So understanding, right, a congressional act that is passed into law, right? And I'm with you, Arthur, because that's what I was saying. When we talk about a program, right? But when you read From Here to Equality, it explains it very well. And what reparations is not something that is, in my mind, and I agree with the doctor, something that is a infinite thing that's supposed to last. It's designed to do a very specific thing, and the reparations program would be designed to exist until it eliminates the racial wealth gap, right? That's what its intent is to do. So after the racial wealth gap, because understanding that the peer reparations program is based on acknowledgement, redress, and closure. Now, once we get to closure, we don't need that anymore. So now we have moved on. So it's not to say that, and then once the creation of the program or the enactment of the program will have the power of law behind it, because it will be a congressional act and be created through a congressional legislation. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick. And then the other part that I want to say about the brother Ali, I didn't hear it correctly, but correct me if I'm wrong. He was saying that when it comes to raising revenue, is that what he said? Could you read that first part again?
He said that's what the Senate did with the CARES Act. They took an older House bill. Oh, you mean what I read from the okay. It says the origination clause, sometimes called the revenue clause, is Article 1, Section 7, Clause 1 of the United States Constitution. This clause says that all bills for raising revenue must start in the House of Representatives.
Okay, we can stop right there. Let's stop
right
there real quick. All right, so what a reparations program is doing is not raising revenue. We don't need to raise any money. All right, so now we understand that the economics of old and the old economic ideology was based on, we have to tax, then and borrow before we can spend. But due to the creation of the U.S. Treasury's fiscal agent, the Federal Reserve, we know now that we don't have to abide that way. And we know that the U.S. Government doesn't even really operate fiscal policy that way. They spend before they tax and borrow. So we don't have to raise any money for reparations at all.
Correct.
Reparations can simply be funded by the United States Treasury through the United States Treasury fiscal agent, the Fed.
Yes, it would be
revenue to raise.
It will be funded. Yes, specifically, it would be funded through the Treasury. At the same time, as far as like where it sits, it will be part of the normal, regular federal budget. That's how embedded we want it to be. You don't want it to be, once it's established. See what I'm saying, and understand what I mean by this. Once reparations is established, we don't want it to have a special status. We want it to be part of the normal, regular operation of the federal budget.
Absolutely.
Just like they do everything else.
Absolutely. And I'm with that one.
Because when it becomes special, it can be messed with.
Oh, and understand this. So I'm gonna say this and let you jump right in, sis. So understand this, right? So those budgets have to be, looked at and reevaluated every time, right? Every fiscal year, we have to go through the Office of Management and Budget. There have to be allocations, and there have to be appropriations committees and whatnot. So that we have to make sure that this legislation is written in a very specific way, so that it's appropriated properly. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
there are certain.
I agree with you.
Right, there are certain sections of the budget that are not adjusted. They're just the same, or they come to the same proportional inflated value. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yes.
All right. So the proportional inflated value. So there's certain parts of the budget that are not messed with, and reparations can be that kind of allocation.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I was going to just say that I can understand how, especially our people, can be very much so triggered by the word program. I mean, let's just keep it real.
I get triggered when I see that word. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, anxiety.
Okay, we got two crazy people in here.
I'm just saying, as soon as we hear program, all types of stuff be running through our head. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but we can look at history, especially when we see how programs have affected, our communities in a not very great way, right? I would even argue that, part of some of these social program initiatives that really happened in the 70s really kind of help, disseminate a lot of our families, or even look at a mass incarceration program, even funding all these particular jails to, start locking up people. And even when Joe Biden was just saying that when he was on the Senate floor and he was trying to make the case for the crime bill, and he was saying in that particular speech, we have all types of programs.
That's right.
In order for them to, for if they were drug addicts and, and then mental issues, et cetera, but they are in jail.
That's right. That's a fact.
Yes.
It's the triggering program word, right? They've kind of embedded that in our psyche in a way. That's an excellent observation.
Yeah. Well, but to side with the word that you use, Dr. Logic, if we really just look at the definition of program itself, it's just a set of related measures or activities with a particular long-term aid. So when you use the word reparations program, actually that was not incorrect, because we have a long-term aid, a long-term goal, right, that we're trying to get accomplished, which is paying the debt that is supposed to go to the American descendants of slavery, and also making sure that we are closing the racial wealth gap that has been imbued on us because of accrued disadvantages, and also because of systematic and institutional racism from the inception of this country.
Yes, right. And I understand people's reservations with the word program because of it's nothing wrong with the idea of a program. It's when the program is not really used to benefit you. But we did some history. You ran some history down about how programs have used us, exploited us, and had taken advantage of us in many ways. But I was raised by Black Panthers and whatnot, and we are all about programs. We created the free lunch program for our people. Sure. We created the free breakfast program for our people. We created the women, infant, and children program for our people, right? Which the federal government ended up taking that up, making it a national thing. So the program is only as good as its construction and application and its oversight and administration, right? So any program can be destructive if it's done wrong. So there's nothing wrong with a program. There's something wrong with a program that's either one, abused, two, that's designed wrong, and three, has no oversight. So we have to take the proper measures to make the program effective, right? So we don't want to get our people into a conspiracy mindset to think that everything is going to, be some type of a negative effect on our people. We have to understand, we have to elevate and get the political maturity to understand that we have to control that thing. And if it's in our control, then we can identify the phenomenon and make it act in a desired manner, then we have the power, because this show is all about being the power. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's right. That's right. So I want to get into real quick. I want to get into from here to equality. There was a case I came across some years ago, and I can't remember, but it was one of the reparations cases. And I had asked Brother Ali to pull that up for me. And I want to read, I can't remember the case right now. He just pulled up that particular ruling. And I want to get into that real quick. And I want to get into from here to equality, where Dr. Darity, is breaking down, and Kirsten Mullen. Shout out to Dr. Darity and Sister Kirsten Mullen, where they're breaking down what Logic was talking about earlier when he referenced the book where he said that the Congress must receive the invoice. So I want to go here real quick, because this is something that we had figured out some years ago, and that was you can't bring a reparations case through the court. We was on this thing. You had a couple of us in the Moorish movement that was really about real research and real work. So let me blow this screen up. I don't know if y'all can see that. That might be hard to see. Yeah, it's kind of, so I could kind of exit out of that. But I want to read this real quick and then get into from here to equality. It says the district judge ruled. And this is when they dismissed the reparations case. I just cannot remember offhand. I used to have all of this stuff off the top of the head, which party brought the suit for reparations, but it was dismissed. I want to say 2006, maybe 2005. I can't remember. No. Way after that.
I'm thinking, are you referring to the federal 2002 reparations case that actually happened in Chicago?
I don't know if that was the case. This may have been a later case. I'm trying to think of the name. It's stuck in my head, but it won't come out because I haven't looked at it in so long.
Okay.
All right, so let me read this real quick. It says the district judge ruled that by virtue of both the political question doctrine and the requirement of standing to sue derived from Article 3 of the Constitution, there was no federal jurisdiction over any of the suits, and that in any event, they had no merit because the applicable statutes of limitations had lapsed, and anyway, the complaint failed to state a claim. So that right there is some legal language within itself that needs to be broke down, and it gives you reference to Federal Supplement, second edition. Those that know how to read court cases understand how those captions work. It says the dismissal was with prejudice, which means they could bring the claim in the future if they wanted to, but the judge was very clear. It says, but if the judge was correct that there is no jurisdiction, he should have dismissed the suits without prejudice and thus not decided their merits, which was key. It says the political question doctrine bars the federal courts from adjudicating disputes that the Constitution has been interpreted to entrust to other branches of the federal government. The earliest and still best example is Luther v. Borden, 48 U.S. 7 How. I'm not going to read the whole caption, right? Rhode Island had not adopted a new constitution after the break with England, but instead continued to govern itself under its colonial charter. Restive citizens convened the Constitutional Convention not authorized by the charter. I mean, it kind of gets deeper into the language of political question. That requires much further breakdown. My brother Ali, he's usually the one that comes in and breaks those types of things down for us. So I want to go into From Here to Equality. Again, this is the book by Dr. Sandy Darity and Kirsten Mullins. We call this the Quran of reparations. So if you haven't read this book, I forgot we got some atheists on the board, but it's all good. It's all good. We call this the Quran of reparations. You know, some people gonna have their terminology, right? They're gonna say this is the reparations. Reparation is Bible. We're gonna say the reparation is Quran. Right? So let me read what Darity says in this regard. He says, while it makes complete sense to seek recompense from clearly identified perpetrators when the entire political order is complicit, it is not sufficient to bill individual perpetrators laissez-faire or piecemeal reparations may assuage individual guilt, but cannot meet the collective national obligation. And, you know, there's somebody that asked in a question in the chat about how this, you know, reparations will come about, particularly through Congress. And I'm hoping what I'm reading here will help this individual understand basically what this show is about, is putting a focus on Congress so that we could get reparations done. I want to read that part again, right? Where it says, he speaks about this individual guilt and this laissez-faire or piecemeal reparations that assuage individuals, but that cannot meet the collective national obligation. Sister Cynthia and Brother Arthur just did a show on that last night. That was fire. I had to jump on, but I caught pretty much most of the show. And the name of y'all show is it the 13th? Or the 13%? I always
13%.
13%.
Make sure y'all check that show out. If you're on Facebook, I shared that on my wall as well. Make sure y'all subscribe to their channel and support them as well. So I want to continue reading. Dr. Darity states, this is unequivocal, right? Because the courts ruled that this question of reparations can only be solved by the legislative branch. And what I just read was key, because the person that was giving the critique said the court should have never gave any critique on it, basically.
True.
Right? He just dismissed it and with prejudice so that it can never be brought again. Right? Or is it without prejudice? I can't remember. Anyway, let me finish reading. So the invoice for reparations must go to the nation's government. Right. The U.S. government, as the federal authority, bears responsibility for sanctioning, maintaining, and enabling slavery, legal segregation, and continued racial inequality. This falls at the feet of government. This is what ADOS has been saying and has been pushing since ADOS has popped up on the scene maybe I want to say 2 years ago, where they started getting more mainstream recognition with what ADOS is about, because we're in 2020 now. It says specifically, the invoice should go directly to the U.S. Congress. Right. So not only does Dr. Darity say that this should fall at the feet of the federal government, he specifies where this should go, and it's to this invoice should go, and it's to the U.S. Congress. It says the legislative branch of the national government. He continues, jurisdiction over the matter of Black reparations should be removed from the judicial system for three fundamental reasons. One, lawsuits brought against corporations, colleges, and universities for their participation in slavery are unlikely to succeed because slavery was legal at the time that they engaged in the practice. That number one point is so key. I mean, we could basically do a whole show on that number one point right there. We got a discussion on that, right? It continues. their activities were undoubtedly immoral, but they were not illegal at the time. So when we start getting into a judicial question about legality and illegality, then we can't separate it based on morals, because sometimes the laws are immoral. Look at the constitutions of many of the quote unquote slave states back in those days. They were immoral. They were immoral documents that were antithetical to the Constitution of the United States of America, the supreme law of the land. So point number 2 says, in order to sue the U.S. government for reparations for the continuation of racial violence, the continuation of racial violence and discrimination in the post-civil rights legislation era, one would have to establish that U.S. government agencies knowingly and intentionally did not enforce the new laws. This would require an effort of Xena-esque proportions. So, I mean, basically plausible deniability. Hey, we passed the law. It's not our fault that Southern states used the 10th Amendment to get around those laws. At least that's my interpretation of it. And I want y'all to come in and give some commentary on this as well. Point number 3, he says the courts do not have the capacity to implement or enforce any legal mandate they might hand down for Black reparations. So the courts are basically just referees. They're arbiters between what's right and what's wrong. So they may give judicial dictum, dicta, and say, well, yeah, all of this stuff is wrong, and you're right. Blacks deserve reparations. America's descendants of slavery deserve reparations. Boom, ruling done. Okay, now.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
So then it goes to, if you could add on real quick, brother.
All right, but this is the thing that I was trying to explain to some of our fellow ADOS brothers and sisters that keep getting enamored by these local reparations things. Okay, it's not that we cannot extract payments from local or state entities, but there's an order that has to be done. Yvette said in one of her programs that the federal government is the first domino that must fall. She's exactly right, and this is why. First of all, we will have law established at the federal level supporting and imprimatur reparations, okay? Then from there, if we have certain contentions, let's say with a state or a municipality regarding reparations, you can come back to those local entities, but with the federal government behind you, because you will have clauses in there, I hope they put those in there, specifying local extractions for historic wrongs. When you have it's a difference if you just going in there like a barking dog, going to City Hall and saying, I deserve reparations, and then you have some nothing burger resolution passed, then you having the federal government behind you where you can go on there and help to rewrite legislation so that you can ensure those extractions. I said in one of my blogs that it is the federal government that has the power of equal establishment, uniform eligibility assurance, non-resistible extraction, and ubiquity of distribution on a national basis. The federal government is and should only be responsible for organizing and distributing any and all reparational resources from corporate, institutional, city, county, and state entities.
Powerful.
So this is not to say that they're out the picture, but we got to do it in order.
Arthur, can you run that last part you said back one more time?
Yes, sir. I said that it is only the federal government that has the power of equal establishment, uniform eligibility assurance, non-resistible extraction, and ubiquity of distribution on a national basis. The federal government is and should only be responsible for organizing and distributing any and all reparational resources from corporate, institutional, city, county, and state entities.
Outstanding.
I
And
want to. Okay, go ahead, Sid.
Yeah.
Sister. I just wanted to read this last part.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then,
Yeah.
So,
can I just jump in real quick?
go ahead,
And the federal government can print money. Okay, now I'm out.
Well,
all right.
All right, we're gonna come back to that. Let's not forget that note. That
All right. So, all right. After I finish reading, Brother Logic, just jump in and then we'll go from there. Dr. Darity and Kirsten Mullins conclude as the Supreme Court's school desegregation decisions demonstrate, legal mandates without broad popular support will be blocked and defected. That was powerful.
That's killer.
Right.
He said, it continues, if popular support is a prerequisite for success in obtaining Black reparations, then it is best to develop that support and push Congress to vote for a substantive program of Black reparations. And that is exactly what Lincoln was doing. He was basically building popular support to get the 13th Amendment passed so that our enslaved ancestors could be freed and we could start living this American life via 40 acres and a mule. And we know what happens after that.
And you know what? I would say I would also give an extra word to that, enough popular support, because most people that have not studied the history of Jewish reparations, only 30% of the eligible Jewish people supported reparations.
Right.
That was it, man. 30%.
Yeah, we've been finding some stuff out over there because I've been seeing some stuff on the Japanese. Right. Some of them were kind of resistant as well. Right. So I'm in a better space of understanding right now, even with our own people. But it's still hard for me to fathom how you could look at the rest of your people go through everything that they're going through in the now and against reparations. That part is unfathomable to me. So,
well, at least we're doing better than the Jews. They say the last poll that I saw, I forgot who it was from, is saying that at least 65% of Black people support reparations. So we're doing better than the Jews.
No, actually, it's over. I think it's over 70%.
Is it over 70?
I believe it is. But yeah, I don't quite understand that. But I can think of some things that might contribute to this whole disconnect when it comes to actually fighting for what is owed to us. And we talked about this. I remember about a couple of days ago. I think that Arthur and Marlon and we were talking about this whole, no, it was on Facebook when we were talking about this whole notion about Black excellence. You know, this whole thing about making it some kind of way, despite the barriers that have been befell upon us, even through racism, and using the excuses of, well, you got an Oprah, you got a Michael Jordan, you got a LeBron James, you even got a Bob Johnson. What's wrong with you?
Oh, that's that decadent veil nonsense.
Yeah, and then also too, I remember a couple months ago, I was talking to a girlfriend of mine, and we were talking about Obama, and she and I remember I was talking to her about, he never championed policy specifically for Black folk. Not even ADOS, but not even Black people as a whole. He never did it, and a lot of times either it was Congress was not allowing me to do X, Y, and Z, or I'm everybody's president, which both things have come out of his mouth. And
we know he didn't do nothing for Black folks as a senator neither, right? He never been about being about Black folk at all. And he also told his girlfriend that he felt like an imposter and that he was in the wrong skin.
Right.
So we did a show a few months ago about Obama where we really unpacked all of that foolishness and the horrible failure that was the Obama years.
I remember.
you almost allowed me to forget. I said we was gonna go back and touch on that note that you left off on. So,
about printing money.
Okay.
is
About
the
printing money,
sole
yeah.
authority of printing currency. States do not print currency.
Right.
Cities do not print currency. Townships, so on and so forth. They're all currency users. The United States government is a currency issuer. But what we also must understand is that it's not just currency that they have the authority and control over. When there's currency, paper money, and then there's digital money, which like the banks have. All the banks have an account with the U.S. Treasury, and they can just uptick and change the numbers in the account. So it ain't like they got to print a whole bunch of currency. They just can go in there and it's like a scorekeeper changing the score. So you don't run out of money. That running out of money is like running out of numbers. And when you're playing a game, like this whole concept is like, where are we going to get the money from? Whenever you play a game, no one says, yo, they're scoring too many touchdowns. They're going to run out of points to put on the board. That's you don't run out of points, and no one says we got to go find the points before we can play the game so we can have some points to put up on the scoreboard. That's not how it does. They are created. The scorekeeper creates the points, and the U.S. Treasury is the scorekeeper. They create the money, and we don't borrow money from any foreign country. We don't use foreign currency. So all of the U.S. Treasury comes with zero liability in that regard. And so people talk about the deficit and they talk about the debt. There's things that you have to understand that's going to come up when you get pushback from this reparationist argument. And we have to be able to eliminate those things because people don't have the education that the debt that you see and the deficit, the deficit, for one, we have to understand that when the federal government is experiencing a deficit, the private sector is experiencing surplus. So the deficit, that is, it's not necessarily bad to have a public deficit because that's sustainable because of the nature of the way they can create currency. But since everyone else is a currency user, we can't sustain deficits on the private sector. So that's the problem. So when we talk about the budget, specifically with reparations, but anything else, we must understand that the government, the U.S. government, shouldn't be trying to create a balanced budget per se. But what they should be doing is create a budget that balances the economy. You understand? So we want a balanced economy, not a balanced budget. So there's ways that they can do that. Now, when they talk about the debt, and then I'm gonna pass the mic back. When we talk about the debt, they use that word specifically as a scare tactic because what you have when you are a sole, sovereign currency creator, you don't really have debt. What they do is the money that they don't take back through taxation, they leave out their people that have wealth. Foreign countries even are able to buy that up. They're able to take that currency and it goes into what is called a treasury bond, right? So it's not a debt. So it basically moved from a checking account to a savings account. And when that money, when it matures, it gains interest, and then it gets turned right back into a checking account, right? So there is nobody that can come and say, you know, you owe us money. And if they did, it doesn't matter because we create our own money.
We create the money.
and able to pay it if they want it. Like, you know, even when you even made that particular point about like bonds, isn't that the same thing that they actually did during World War II?
Yes.
You know, people were able to just buy bonds just so they could say that I support the war effort, and if they wanted to cash them in, they actually ended up getting like, you know, interest off of that.
True.
You know,
well, the only reason why they were selling bonds that time was, remember, our money was still tied to the gold standard.
Gold standard, yeah.
So they couldn't just start creating money in the way that they do now. Okay. So so where are we going to get this extra money? So we can get it from the public. Okay. And anybody that makes the kind of statements that Dr. Logic that just put out about where you're going to get the money from, that individual has a horrible misunderstanding of monetary policy. Correct. 90% of the taxes that they collect at the federal level is returned to the states.
Right.
They basically keep enough money to keep gas in Air Force One. Where the United States makes their money is on tariffs, printing money, and bonds. That's where the money comes from.
Let me say real quick, family. We got a couple trolls in the chat.
Hold on.
Aboriginal indigenous people.
Hold on, Abba, because trolls be taking us all over. But we need to have this. No one's having this conversation like we having right now. Hold on. Let's hold on. We'll get to the trolls in a hot second, because the brother author brought up an excellent point, right? So we have to understand, right, when we're talking about this money situation, the federal government, what they really need, why they invent taxes in the first place, is to get the people to work and produce things for the state. So they spend money, they spend its own currency into existence, and then they take it back in order for people to get it again. So then they create a tax to incentivize the work, and they create penalties and fines to get you to do work for the state that you wouldn't do if there was no tax. So if I got to have this money or I can't drive, so now you got to work to get the currency. But the currency had to come from somewhere. So the people didn't invent the currency and give it to the government. The people don't fund the government. The government funds the people. The U.S. government funds the state. The U.S. government funds the country. So that is the ultimate understanding that we should have. And what our goal is to turn the economy into an economy that works for the people. Because the corporate America understands this. Elite America understands this, and everybody at Capitol Hill understands this, but they don't want the people to understand this, because they don't want the people to demand the country to do more.
And you know what? Real quick, I'm sorry, Sid, but one of the things we do on here is we address some of these trolls in the chat. So I just want to say real quick is, if the Mr. Aboriginal Smith and the other fake Indian Southwind, if y'all want the link to come on the show, we'll make time. We'll make time. And my brother Logic is right. We are having a very important discussion, one of the most important discussions that can be had anywhere, particularly pertaining to our people. And if you want to come on this show, we'll learn you up real fast, because none of the stuff that you'll ever talk about with this Aboriginal indigenous nonsense that we were enslaved because slaves were Slavs and all of that corny crap that I did like 7 or 8 years ago.
Yo, you tell me.
Fam, can I just say, can I put my atheist hat on real quick?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Just real quick. Excuse me. Okay. All you people who is bringing up all these different word salads about Slavs and Slavics and all this other stuff, and you want to go back to the original people, stuff like that, I'm about to tell you something that some of the atheist YouTubers that I listen to sometimes says. So what? So what? What that got to do with this right now? You knowing about what Slav really means versus Slavic people that I'm familiar with in Poland ain't got nothing to do with reparations. It ain't got nothing to do with closing the racial wealth gap. It ain't got nothing to do with actually bringing up collective uplift.
And I want to say, let me say too, that if we claimed Aboriginal, right, indigenous, let's just say that, does that close the racial wealth gap? Do we then take up more crazy sovereign citizen ideology that the cash really has no value, that it's only fiat money?
Right.
And we could just basically write dollar signs on oak leaves and use that as a form of currency, or maybe trade bark or some other nonsense. Like these people, and that's why we offer you on, Mr. Aboriginal Smith. You blow us smoke in the chat. Come get this smoke, because we will clean you up on this show.
Brother Southwind can see what it's like when you come to the south side. Welcome to the south side.
Right. And you got 2 Southsiders. No, 3 Southsiders.
Okay. Southwind, if you're in the chat, we got 3 people who are also from the south side of Chicago, that saying, come on and get this smoke.
smoke.
We will make a couple minutes for you. Send an email or send some confirmation in the chat that you want to come on, and we'll let you come on.
Yeah, and that's absolutely facts. And this is the one thing this is the problem that I have, right? With these type of individuals, right? They on the program watching and listening to what we're doing and what we're talking about. And the issue that I have with them is not whatever, because I believe that anyone can be into whatever they want to be into. That's your right as a human being. But you see that's not what we're doing on this show. Why you want to make this about you? This ain't about you. And you ain't no more Aboriginal than nobody. You paying taxes or you squatting in houses. You work a job or you broke and homeless. You either indigent or you making money. I see the same brothers talk about money don't have it's fiat, it's worthless, and then ask for donations right after they done. So
come on now.
Ain't nobody got time for none of that. Y'all are some clowns. We're about serious business.
Come on now.
It gets me upset when I have to do it because this is serious business. I don't play no games about this. Politics is a war without bloodshed. And war is politics with bloodshed. Now,
come on.
We trying to do diplomacy, but you want to bring in the goofy stuff. I talked about the Mr. Potato Head politicians out here trying to put the legs where the arms should go last week. Now you got people with this Alice in Wonderland politics want to come in talking about they Aboriginal and they chief dripping tears and all kind of silly stuff. Well, if that's what you think you connected to, then go on and go over there. There's a whole community that's doing that. There's a place for you. This ain't your place, fam. And if you want to have a real discussion about politics and economics, we can have that discussion. And when we will do a show. Naheem has promised that we will do a show about the spiritual applications to ADOSness and in this movement. You can come on and we can talk about all of that other stuff you want to talk about. But when you see us talking about real grown level conversation, keep that childish stuff at the kiddie table, man. We talking about economics and politics. You talking about Aboriginal goofy fairy tales that you can't prove, don't have no power, and ain't done nothing for nobody. Get on up out of here. Somebody block them in the chat, man.
There you go, dark skin beauty.
Yes, there you go. You just got
get him up out of here.
Bye, sir. You coop the cap on too tight.
Wow.
Not to disparage anybody who owns koofies. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I rock koofies.
Yeah, I know.
We deal with the leaders. We deal with the leaders of Cobra right here in Chicago on an everyday basis. But we got to look at them crazy koofies and talk about them like a dog.
Yeah, I know. I feel
that's right.
That's right. Right. Because
everybody in a koofy ain't on their dean. You understand?
Right.
Sometimes it's just a goofy wearing a koofy. You understand? So we gotta separate the chaff from the wheat. A lot of people like to be in the skies. I lived on 78th and Yates. I worked up and down 79th Street. I was all up and down Stony Island. I seen a lot of brothers selling bean pies and eating pork chops at the same time. So I know for a fact everybody ain't right. Everybody in a bow tie ain't who they say they are.
Right.
So we can expose. Everybody needs to understand. There's a time.
We lost.
Logic.
And he was on a roll. Damn.
Yeah. Especially when you were talking that Chicago stuff. I seen y'all back straighten up a little bit. Like, so 79 was funny. Like, we be having our little Chicago, New York thing going on in our little personal, battles. Who got the best pizza? Who got the best food? Et cetera, and all that stuff. Logic, if you can hear me for whatever reason, it is not letting me bring you back on. Oh, there you go. You good, bro?
Yeah, man. The forces is trying to keep me from engaging the people.
Nah, they can't stop this. The ancestors is overtaking those forces, so we good right now.
Yeah,
I want to pull this up as well. Brother Logic had put this in our private chat. on Facebook. This is from Dr. Darity and Kirsten Mullins, From Here to Equality. I don't know. I don't have the pages. We are reading it from Kindle. The main book, the physical copy, excuse me, was sold out. So we're reading from Kindle and listening from Audible. I don't have an iPhone, so I can't make like these little quotes, these cute little quotes like this. I gotta do a bunch of screenshotting and cutting and cropping and all that. But this says, in this chapter, we represent the something that is often missing from reparations talk, a detailed program of reparations for Black Americans. We begin by calling upon the U.S. Congress to assert leadership and authorize payments to be made by the U.S. government. Many atrocities, indignities, and micro and macro aggressions have occurred in the well of American racism. And that is such a powerful quote. And it's what this show is dedicated to. That's page 256. Shout out Sister Sin. You know, we on it. From here to okay, she got the physical copy. We on it. Those chapters are basically near the end of the book. So that's 12, I believe 12 and 13. Where those
that's chapter 13.
Chapter 13 where those quotes are coming from. So like I said, we are really studying this thing. I study differently. That's why it takes me so long to fit. I'll be wanting to cross-reference every single bit of information. I just cannot help it, but I'm almost finished myself. I have copious notes, as they say.
Well, now that I have and I do use From Here to Equality as the standard.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that I blog is centered from that. And if it's not, or is an extension or whatever, I will specify that to say, hey, now this is my thought. This is not from here. Okay. But everything else that I write is centered around that book.
So I wanted that to be put up and highlighted because there's a lot of therapy that needs to be done with our people. And I love our people. I love us, right? And so oftentimes when you use a weapon on the people, they'll look at the weapon and say that the weapon is bad and not the person that's wielding the weapon, right? So that's how it is, because programs has been used as weapons on our people for so long. We hear the word program and we're like, oh, I don't want nothing to do with no more programs. Right. But it's not the program is bad. It's the person that's in charge and administering the program that has been bad. And so what we need are good programs. And Martin Luther King criticized Stokely Carmichael and the Black Power movement. And he said the Black Power movement lacks a program. So a program is needed. A program creates order. A program creates direction and a destination. It outlines your goals and your aims and objectives, right? Your program is your map. So if you don't really have a program, you don't have no order, and yet what you have is chaos, right? So the problem is the quality of the program and the people who are exercising this program and administering this thing. So I just want my people to know that I love them and I want them to understand we have to be a lot of things that have been happening to us and the way we think about a lot of things is the consequences of just being victimized by everything that we've seen coming down the pipe. But if we can if we can identify the phenomenon, like my stepfather's who is a now ancestor buddy, Fred Hampton, used to say, how if you can identify the phenomenon and make it act in a desired manner, that is power. And that's what we want to do.
You made a really good point, Dr. Logic, concerning about chaos and not necessarily having, like, we need certain things to actually have direction. And I'm even thinking about this whole Black Lives Matter movement. And I even think about like some of the other different events that even happened in Chicago, where we had like, you know, certain people like marching up the Dan Ryan Expressway to bring shine a light on violence that's happening in Chicago and things of that nature. And they've been marching and doing all these different shine the light programs for like years and years and years, and they're still doing it. But the problem is that you don't have a direction, a program, a roadmap on what exactly you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And even when we're going back to this whole thing concerning reparations and why it has to be a legislative thing, because it's policy that's done in legislation that becomes law that can be enforced to actually enact change. You know, we can even think of like all these different people, and even like Black Lives Matter and protesters that have been like, you know, marching, screaming, burning down stuff. But what legislation, what real policies, what type of bills are they really advocating for in order for them to say, okay, this is the change that we want? We got websites and all types of talking points. And even like when you brought up Dr. King criticizing Stokely during the Black Power movement, one of his other criticisms is that this whole emphasis on slogans, like, you know, no justice, no peace, and all this
Come
other
on
stuff.
now.
You know?
Now you're getting old now.
So here's the thing. You can slogan all day. And even with the brother that was in the chat, you can put up slobs all day. But at the end of the whole, you dig, you still need a policy in order for you to exact change that we can actually use in our particular communities.
That's right.
And we can't get that with, you know, just wayward thinking and misdirection and chaos. We just can't do it.
Yeah, or because what's happening with the Black Lives Movement stuff and all the stuff that's happening now is we just have a bunch of white politicians coming up with resolutions and all this other stuff to cool the niggas out. Okay. And we're still not going anywhere. We even still have people within ADOS saying things like to legislators, where's your Black agenda? What? You don't have enough education now? You know, you still don't understand an agenda is what you come up with and give to him? That's not for him to come up with for you. Nobody can tell. Nobody can tell you what you want, and you shouldn't want somebody to tell you what you want. You're supposed to decide what you want, documentize it, and present it to that legislator. Hey, this is what my group wants. This is the agenda. Are you willing to follow it, or are you willing to follow half of it? How far are you willing to go? And once we nail that down, then we'll decide whether or not we'll support you.
That's right.
All right. Let me camelback and piggyback and all the backs on that, right? So just to kind of emphasize what Brother Ward was saying, right? That, like, look how silly that is, asking somebody where's their Black agenda at. And oftentimes the people they're asking ain't even Black. Why would they have a Black agenda? It doesn't make any sense. So do the LGBT community people go and say, where's the LGBTQ agenda? Or do they
hell no?
They present them with their agenda. They demand it. Do the pro-lifers or the pro-choicers say, where's your pro-choice agenda? Where's your pro-life agenda? No, what about, they say this is what we want, and this is what we don't want, and they demand it, and they pressure till they get results.
And what about the Jews? Have you ever heard the? No, you will never hear a Jew saying, where is your Jewish agenda? You know why? Because all of the Jewish organizations, this is one of the few things, this is one of the things that most people don't know. You have a lot of Jewish organizations out here. Matter of fact, the number of Jewish organizations out here are way larger proportionally than the actual numbers in this country. But what they do is that, yes, they have their own individual agendas, and you have Zionists and anti-Zionists and all this other stuff. You have Republican Jews, you have Democratic Jews, you have Libertarian Jews. But on a quarterly basis, all of the organizations get together and they hammer out an agenda. And you know what? They're not 9 or 20 different agendas coming to Congress. They have one agenda.
That's powerful.
Coming to Congress.
That is powerful. And it's reminiscent to the show we did where we're reading Ice Cube's Contract to Black America.
Right.
And then we're looking at the Lloyds of London reparations proposal by T.I., right? These are all separate things. They're scattered.
Right.
They're wrong, first
Right.
and foremost. More, that's the most important part, that
Right.
they're not real policy at all. It's just a bunch of ideas. And it's like you just expressed, it's not something that's on one accord. And this is why we can't let this movement be taken over by celebrity number one, right? We, of course, want to have conversation with celebrity. We would love that. You know, that conversation we had with Chubb Rock, I thought was powerful. He came in one way and appeared to leave out another way. So I thought that was a powerful discussion. But if we're not on the same page, then we are basically spinning our wheels in mud, or we are, to probably use a more apt analogy, we are in a small glass aquarium as like hamsters, and our only motion that we can really garner up is on that little hamster's wheel that just isn't going anywhere. It seems like we're moving because we're running and running and running and running, but at the end of the day, we're not moving. And it was King that said, and I'll paraphrase, unity is not a uniformity is not a requisite to unity, right? So, and this is where again we start getting into the Hegelian dialectic, thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Let's start stripping, let's start fleshing this stuff out, strip away all the nonsense. We can say, this is great right here. Oh, this is perfect. This goes with what we're talking about right here, and start putting all of this stuff together. So now you may have some inclusion. Right. You might bring something to the table that's 95% weak. But we might take that 5% and say this came from, let's just say, Brother Ice Cube right here in the proposal, because this was right and exact. It's something that needs to be implemented in a broader reparations package that ADOS is pushing forward.
Right. And you made a very good point there. And the other thing that you got to understand, and everybody should absorb, the anti-Zionist Jews and the Zionist Jews are definitely at odds with each other. But when they come to that meeting, somehow they're able to set some things aside and compromise for the entirety of the Jewish people in America. Okay. The other thing that we need to do, and we need to keep out, we have to figure out a way to get the pan-Africanists to stop driving the conversation on Capitol Hill, because they're driving the conversation on Capitol Hill, not us. And HR 40 is a Pan-African document, not American.
I want to say real quick before Logic or Sister Cynthia jumps in, remember when Trump officially made the embassy, the American embassy,
you talking about Israel?
Yeah, from
he moved it from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
Right.
Oh, the Jewish Democratic representative Schumer, etc. They were elated. They lauded that move by Trump because that was something that represents their best interest. So while they are fierce political enemies, they are, as far as the Jews go, are collective. They think collectively when it comes to their agenda. They are an agenda-driven people. And Brother Arthur just spoke to the Zionists and the anti-Zionists. They are. I mean, I've watched a lot of videos with anti-Zionists going after Zionists, right? But when it comes to specific policies that affect the group, I mean, they're hand in hand. And Brother Arthur said another thing that we don't really understand as a collective group for those of us in the conscious community, and that is this whole pan-Africanist thing. That's how you get the bill killed, by introducing these elements that are not American. I was in a group today, and that was one of the discussions about reparations. And I'm going through the thread, and I try to have some understanding, like these people don't know what they're talking about. But many of the comments were, well, it needs to be inclusive. because what the Europeans or the whites did all over the world, they committed atrocities on all people. And so I started to jump on the thread, and I said, well, here's a link to CARICOM. CARICOM is specifically fighting for the Caribbean community, all of the islands that comprise that community. Can you show me where CARICOM is fighting for America's Descendants of Slavery on their website? And they went all around. You got to show them so that they could feel defeated in their mind. And we got to keep pushing this narrative, family. This Pan-African thing, it doesn't bode well for us when we're trying to push reparations. And this is what this whole tug of war around HR 40 is about. And I'm going to close out with this. I'm going to use the tug of war analogy. They have some big, strong, muscle-bound people pulling on the rope from their side of that bill, right? We have some smaller framed people, if we will, but the more of us that pick up that rope, we will overcome. We don't care how powerful and strong and muscular they are. The more of us that pick up that other end of the rope, we'll be able to defeat them. And that's why this movement in and of itself is so important right now.
Just to piggyback on what both of you all just said, even when we're talking about, like, you have like some people here that's like, Pan-African, and you have some people that's here that, want to focus on all inclusion and et cetera, et cetera. To me, this is why it's so important to have a political education. When you even think about the Jewish people, and if you all didn't know, I really like history. History teaches you a lot. And one of the things that happened with the Jews is that they were only allowed to go into only certain industries when they first came here. And a lot of those industries had to do with money, like accounting and law. So it does not surprise me that you have a large contingency of Jewish organizations that are understanding how to maneuver in political spaces. But one of the things that did not happen with our particular group is that even we were also locked out when it came to certain industries that we could go into at a higher rate. Most of us were laborers. Remember, a lot of us, when we even was freed from slavery, ended up going right back to the plantations that we were freed from, and had generations after that were sharecroppers. Even Willie Wilson talked about that. Willie Wilson is a Chicagoan who became a millionaire, and he's from Louisiana, and talked about how he left Louisiana from the time he was 13 years old, but he was born and raised into sharecropping, So we still lack that educational piece that we really need to have in order for us to be more effective in this particular space. I mean, one of the things that I'm hopeful about is that I see more of us waking up. I see more content creators like you all, and shout out to Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore and Dr. Darity and others that are really, trying to be more informative so that we can get this political education. But it needs to be more, because once we actually get a better understanding of how all these particular things move, and I would even say that our 8th grade Civics 101 wasn't even enough. We got to really just a huge glance over on branches of government and Constitution, and then take the test, and now you can go to high school. But no one really focuses on, what does this branch do? What does this branch do? What about, some of the court cases that happen that actually either beefed up laws, overturned laws? How did these laws affect you as a people? We really have to learn these things, because like if you can learn these particular things, then you can really be more effective when you are advocating for legislation, when you're advocating for certain bills, when you're advocating for effectual change for you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have it.
Absolutely. I like exactly where you went with that, right? And I always tell my brothers this, and I've said this on the show before as well. And we have missed out a lot in our education system, and it come in regards to civics. And civics is a particular part of political sciences that focuses on the responsibility and duty of citizens, right? So you learned they glanced over and glazed over government in your government class and taught you, like you said, but they didn't teach you what your responsibilities and duties were as a citizen, right? So now you don't even know what you're supposed to do, and you don't know where you're, because they know those responsibilities and duties connect you to your civic power. Citizens are powerful. To be a citizen, that's why everybody around the world is fighting and killing and running all over the place and swimming across oceans to be one. They wanted to be a U.S. citizen because that's the best thing you can be in America at this particular time. I don't care what nobody say. The data proves it. More people trying to come to America than anywhere else in the world to be what? Citizens, right? Okay, so moving forward with that, when we talk about that political education, that political maturity, we can't go back in time and get what we didn't get in high school and in grammar school. So what the best thing you can do is get involved. That's how you're going to get that experience. And education just means to bring the best out of something or to develop, right? So to develop that political education, I started out in politics as a poll watcher. First thing I ever did in politics was I was a poll watcher, right? Then I was a ballot counter, right? Then I worked on campaigns. Then I got appointed to a precinct committeeman. Then I ran for precinct committeeman and got elected to precinct committeeman. Then I worked on some state senator campaigns. So once you start moving like that, then you start to, because it's even better than the theory of it, right? Because now you're knowing the players. You're getting into the political field. You're getting in the field experience, right? So you get the theory. You got to have the theory because you need to know, the language and how to talk to folks and how a basic working knowledge of how things work. But then you have to apply that science. You have to apply that science and its application in the field. So you need to get a part of a campaign in a very small way, just so you can see who the players are. Understand who the players are and be quiet at first, but get people to know you and know who people are. And then and just learn, and then just learn by doing and getting involved. Know how the system works. That I used to be a person to say votes don't count. Votes don't count until I was counting them. And I was like, well, damn, I'm sitting all night. So I'm like, somebody do it. Right. So, and then I understood a lot of different things when I was a poll watcher. So when you're a poll watcher, you're watching for different type of things like fraud or people trying to get people to vote for someone else and trying to steer the vote in the ballot line. So now you're a poll watcher. You're like, hey, hold on, watch out. You can't do that here. So people come and they try to pick it at the ballot line. People come and they try to do all kinds of things at the ballot line. But see, when you get involved now, that's your civic duty. Now you can be like, we ain't doing none of that. Get up out of here. You check an ID card. So you involved. So we've been out of the game for so many decades. We just think the thing, is useless. That ain't for us. We don't do that. But we were good at that. Me and my brother Ali was talking about it. And then, we talked about on the show, we have been the best at it, actually. Look, in spite of everything that we had to fight through, we are the American descendants of slavery and the Native Black American culture. The original culture is freedom fighting. We're the best freedom fighters that has ever been produced in the history of the world.
That's right.
And we know how to do politics. Imagine doing politics. Come on, we have the greatest politicians in the history of the world. People don't understand that. If you don't understand the level, the high level of politics, you have to be operating to produce a Hiram Revels, to produce a Prince Rivers, to produce a Robert Smalls, to produce these type of genius legislators during the post-Civil War. And you read these men's literature, these men were highly educated. Men were masters tacticians and strategists. Knew how to move it, like Hove say, know how to move in a room full of vultures. They was moving in a room full of vultures, literally. And so we have to understand that's in our DNA, that's in our blood, that's in our genetics. We are naturally good politicians. Your kids politic with you and they try to negotiate with you. They want to do this and they want to do that. We are natural politicians. We're the best, and we have to get back to our roots and get back to what we're good at. All you got to do is just get to doing it. We're already good at it.
Yeah, it's just that we got to own and realize what everyone else sees about us, okay, and start working it. Because I know it sounds arrogant, but I consider ADOS to be first among equals in this country for two reasons. First of all, because of all the attributes that you just laid out, Dr. Logic, and because of the fact that we paid for this country.
Yeah, Brother Logic dropped off, but definitely, if you wanted to continue that point, brother, please.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying we did pay for this country in more ways than one, and that makes us more American and more invested in the ownership of this country than any other person or any other group. And this is what I'm trying to get people to understand. There's a lot of things that we have to learn, just like Dr. Logic said, but we just have this short window in which we got to ramp up our understanding and action before we lose the moment.
That's right.
Yeah, that's all. Right now, that's all I got to say.
That's right. That's right.
You mean to tell me you ain't got nothing to say, Cynthia?
Wait, hold on.
I mean, usually, you be running your.
Let me say real quick. Y'all got some little inside thing going on right there. So we ain't going to expound on any of that on this show. Just to say some children's ways.
Stop all that right now. That's off on Be the Power right now.
YouTube asked, is this what does it say? Is this content for children, safe for children or something like that? So we gotta
it is safe. It is safe for children.
But this is I want to say this real quick, that we have become so disenchanted with and disengaged because of our treatment in, like, those Aboriginal indigenous people that were in the chat. A part of me understands what they're going through. And I don't want to call it necessarily a mental illness. It is more escapism than anything. Which way can we find an escape from all of these things that some of us will never become desensitized to at all? We're seeing it. There was a video, the Aurora Police Department out in Colorado, where they pulled this family over. The description was a man on a motorcycle. They pulled a family over, a black family. They made them lay out on the ground. The little girl couldn't have been no older, than 4 years old. And I went to show my daughter earlier, and she said, "Dad, I don't want to see. I don't want to see that. I just don't want to see it." And I had to reflect on that. And when I think about those people that talk the Aboriginal indigenous stuff, I came through the Moorish movement, and at first I came through on that sovereign citizen nonsense, right? We are the true people of the land. The money ain't real. Yeah, you say that when you ain't got no money in your pocket and you're trying to figure out how to get some money, and you're watching the greatest nation in the world build up wealth for itself. You're watching Lexus commercials and Mercedes-Benz's commercials, and they're pulling up to these nice homes, and you're living in squalor, or you've come out of squalor, right? It creates a warped sense of reality, and you see these things. They become a part of your psyche. So your mind is trying, and this is my opinion, of course, is trying to find a way to cope with this reality that we're forced to live in. And so we have these visions of Africa and being over in the motherland. And maybe if we just lived there, we would be free. And so our mind goes there. This is what the whole pan-Africanism thing is about. This is what the Aboriginal indigenous thing is about. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the Moorish prophet who went and established, it wasn't originated in Chicago, it was originated in New Jersey, but it effloresced in Chicago. It blossomed there. He said,
everything blossoms in Chicago, man.
That's right.
He said, this Moorish movement is in no way to be confused with the Back to Africa movement. This is why the first couple of years, and we're going to do a show this upcoming Sunday, we're going to get into some of these spiritual systems, the cultural elements of Islam and hoodoo, and the things that we developed here as ADOS, as the counterculture to a lot of what some may say was forced on us in Christianity. I'm going to bring some things up that a lot of people have never seen in the historical record. So that's going to be a powerful show. We're going to do that this upcoming Sunday, family. So look forward to that. I'm going to round out what I'm saying. I hope I'm not being too long-winded by saying that.
Now, I want to ask you a question.
Oh, sure, brother.
Do you feel, because it sounds like you're saying in so many words, do you feel that Pan-Africanism in a broad sense is a kind of escapism?
When you look at Pan-Africanism, when you go back to Edward Wilmot Blyden, who is considered the father of Pan-Africanism, there are some who tussle with that claim. There's some contention there, but from my vantage point, it is definitely Edward Wilmot Blyden. His goal was to pattern Black nationalism patterned after Zionism, to whereas we have this worldwide connection. And when you look at those intentions, they were pure. It wasn't used as this ruse in the way that it's being used here, this Wakanda-like, we're sitting at meetings doing the Wakanda bounce on the, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't that, it was pure. It was a pure, and there were pure intentions behind what Blyden was trying to do with what he was establishing with Pan-Africanism. The only problem, and it is my critique with Blyden's plan, was that the cement of Pan-Africanism is Jewish, not identity, but religion. That was the one thing that brings them together. This is what Prophet Noble Drew Ali is doing with Moorish. You see, Jewish, Moorish. So he gives us L to annex to the end of our names. And I'm going to get into that Sunday. And the L becomes the identifier. In the same way you have Rothstein or Silverstein. So when you see the L, you know for a fact that this person is a Moorish American. They have a specific, just like you have evangelical Christians. When you see, what's the guy name? John, I think his name is John King on CNN. I think his last name is King. He does the political analyst when he goes up to the board and he's breaking down the different demographics, and he'll break down whites in their specific categories, white working class. And then he'll say, but we got to keep an eye on this group right here, white evangelical Christians. So when we look back on it, we see that Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who established the first voting bloc outside of a Christian voting bloc in the United States of America, right there in Chicago, Illinois. That this is something we're going to get into Sunday. This was something that he was trying to create, so that it, and I go back to what I said he was saying about this should be in no way confused with the Back to Africa movement. Everything Noble Drew Ali was doing was based on Americanism, with an understanding that you are not Negroes, blacks, or colors, because these names delude to slavery. They are a part of the badges of slavery that you carry with you. And so we kind of get deeper into how they legislate things. And now we get, you know, that's why when I'm listening to Yvette and Tone, when I first get into the ADOS thing, I hear it from a different understanding. based on what Noble Drew Ali taught. So when the guys in the conscious community see that I'm interested in the ADOS movement, they quickly bring me on. These guys been going at my neck for years, these pan-Africanists and conscious. They call me Lord Abba in the conscious community. They're like, no, bring Brother Lord Abba on. Because we've been hearing him talk about this stuff for years. So this is why my brothers and I, we fit right into the ADOS discussion, and we have our own unique perspective behind it. There's some things that may be debatable from depending on which point you're coming from. Me, my bros and I debate about certain of this stuff pretty often. So, I just I hope I answered your question insofar as the pan-Africanism being an escapism. Yes, and I just kind of wanted to give some context to the Moors that may be listening, because y'all have taken this thing and created the same type of escape hatch that Noble Drew Ali was trying to get y'all out of. Forget trying to get on some steamship. We're about to elect Oscar the Priest to the Congress after the 1877 compromise. He was, if I'm not mistaken, outside of I believe it was a congressman in North Carolina, he was the first congressman elected to a seat outside of the 1877 compromise.
He was the first congressional district, and the first congressional district is what he got, representative district. And he went to the House of Representatives in the first congressional district.
That's correct. Yes.
And Noble Drew Ali was trying to show us, look, the power in the United States of America is through what he called the sacred ballot. And I'm gonna get into all of that Sunday. We're gonna touch on a bunch of different things, but make sure y'all tune in. I don't want to.
Do you know that Adam Clayton Powell used that same verbiage when he was first being elected to Congress?
What did he say?
The sacred ballot.
Oh wow! See? and it is.
Adam Clayton Powell was something else, man.
That's my man.
Yes, he was.
Let me interject this real quick. There's a book by a man named Walter McDougall. The name of the title is that book is out there, I think. Yeah, it's out on one of my end tables. But how America's foreign policy failed the civil. It's a long title.
Civil religion, something like that.
But it's based on what he called the American civil religion, and this thing is his breakdown of the American civil religion is so dope, and I'm going to get into some of that on Sunday, because people need to understand how a Christian can be in the same religion as a quote-unquote Negro and still put a rope around his neck and string him up by a tree. We're going to get into that Sunday.
Yo, we got that's going to be a powerful show. But when we talk about the pan-Africanism thing, when we get back to that, right? The brother mentioned Blyden, right? You got to admit it, like Delaney, Cormel, all these people. But the one you don't want to forget, right? Because this, like, so Delaney, Blyden, and there was a lot of people who was called the father of pan-Africanism. But if you want to know, like, how it really took hold into, like, the Incobrist type people, they're going to be built on the backs of who really ended up being, the popular vote for the father of pan-Africanism.
Yeah, you cut out, brother Logic.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So W.B. Du Bois is the what they call the father of modern pan-Africanism. And if you like the people like Cobra and all of these people like that, they are built on the backs of this man's work. And there's a lot of stuff that go on with W.B. Du Bois, with Marcus Garvey. So, and then there's another group of then Cobra that will say they come from Marcus Garvey and with the Queen Mother Moore connection. So, a lot of things going on in that history. That history will serve us well to flesh it out. and really talk about that entire history. And everyone, again, we always promote this book on our show because we believe it is the manual for every reparationist. Dr. Darity also goes in extensively in From Here to Equality about the different kind of reparations movements that have taken place, right? And he talks about Queen Mother Moore, and he talks about, you know, a lot of these things that are very important in our history. And talking about Oscar Dupreece and talking about all of the, you know, amazing things that have happened. When we really talk about Black politics, right? Chicago has been historically the hotbed for Black politics.
Right.
That's true.
There's so many amazing politicians that come out of Chicago. So if you just wanted to do some education, some research, you can really learn a lot about Black politics, Black organizing, and everything of that nature, from community organizations. And then just like take it as I'm talking about from Jeff Fort to Larry Hoover to David Dale to Harold Washington to you know, everybody. Like organizing is just, Chicago is an organized city, and we are organized people, and we understand how to move in an organized way. So I think a lot can be learned from Chicago. Chicago has been getting highlighted for a lot of just negative things that are really happening in certain areas, right?
Sure.
Chicago is a lot to be learned there. I'll call it the most American city in the country. And it's just so much to be learned there historically.
As a New Yorker, I will say, that Harlem back in the days, they did some pretty good Black politics too. I gotta throw some of that New York up in there. I'm surrounded by all these Chicago family in the building. But I love this, our little intra ADOS thing, man. We need some more people from Cali on. We got a little rivalry with Cali as well. You know, I know Chicago and Detroit, y'all got y'all little riberies going on.
Brother Naeem, I lived for 8 years in New York City. 128th and St. Nicholas, okay?
Oh, no, look. Now, New York politics is, to me, it's trash.
It's crazy.
Back in the days, though, you know, you talk about Adam Clayton Powell, and you talk about some of those giants back in the day. Harlem, I mean, that's where Malcolm you had to go to Harlem.
Right.
and it goes back, and Yvette had mentioned this one brother on her show. I don't know if she mentioned him or pulled up his picture. Hubert Harrison, the Harlem Radical.
That's right.
I speak about him often.
Black atheist.
I got a lot of stuff to fight with tonight, boy. I got a whole lot of stuff to fight with tonight. He did leave the church, and it's so funny.
That is funny. It is funny because y'all know how funny this is, because that's Abba's man too.
Yeah,
Abba's man.
He comes to America. His story was just intriguing to me. He comes to America, and that's what makes him disavow the church. He's seen how the church was being ran, and he just didn't like it, and it made him fall back. But he understood. Even Cornel West, there's a video of Cornel West talking about Hubert Harrison on YouTube, and he comes from the islands, but he understood the difference between the race battle and the social battle.
Yes.
To me, that's what made him so unique. And they said that style of standing on the street corners that we seen the brothers doing in Harlem, they said it was that man, Hubert Harrison, that started that. You know, that's why they called him the Harlem Radical. I'm trying to get the author of his works, I think his name is Matthew Perry, to come on the show. He's also a friend with the guy that wrote the book excuse me.
I have the book. I'll get
okay, definitely.
But he was hardcore, man, and he was so well studied. You couldn't debate this dude. He'd tear you up.
They said he would debate you right on the corner and just strip you naked.
Strip
and
you naked.
Run along. So and I'm a debater, so I love that. You know, and the fact that he understood that,
Right.
okay, the people, the quote unquote Negroes over here were at a disadvantage because they didn't get the education that I had
Right.
in on my island. I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna fight. He was the first one to expose the NAACP.
Yes.
Mhm.
The post office because he wrote an article against, who is that? Oh man, in the New York Times. This brother was writing articles in the New York Times in 1912 and 1913, family, 1910 or something around that time.
Right.
Of the Tuskegee machine. Oh, who did he write that letter against? I just can't think of the name right now.
But that's
Booker T. Washington. If I'm not mistaken, it's Booker T. Washington. So he writes critique. The Tuskegee machine jumps in and gets this brother fired. That's something I believe that we Adolf need to look at when we're looking at people in certain spaces, like maybe a Roland Martin and how
in Cobra.
Yeah, in Cobra. How
Keeper.
Voltron, that's what they did to ADOS. They basically formed Voltron and said, we're gonna stamp this little tribe out, this little flame before it becomes a fire, before it get lit. But it's too late. ADOS is lit. So I just wanted to add some of that in there as well.
Hey, yo, let me say this because you made me just think of something, right? So getting back to a real serious note, right? When we talking about the because Arthur Ward ended up introducing the pan-africanist thing and things of that nature, right? So and again, I said on this show plenty of time, I was raised pan-African, you understand? So but I understand what is the right thing to be doing. I mean, I was literally raised pan-African, you know. My father started the African Festival in Chicago with a group of people. He was one of the first people to work with the group that started the Kwanzaa Fest. I went to NCDC, which is a Yoruba summer program that they had at NCDC school, right? So I'm all about Pan-Africanism, grew up that way. But we have to understand what has happened with the cultural aspects of Pan-Africanism and how it has negatively affected our politics as Native Black Americans and American descendants of slavery, right? We have to understand the political side of this thing. Culturally, listen, if you like that culturally, you want to eat some jollof and you like plantain and all that, that's outstanding. But we have to understand politics is not about that.
That's right.
Politics is not about that. And we have to be very specific with our politics. And it don't mean we're enemies. It just means everything ain't for everybody, and we can't do everything with everybody. Some things we got to do with us as our group, and we can come together and do some other things together on the other side. So politics is something that we have to do to determine our own destiny in America as citizens, as a specific group that has a specific history. And so that, like, I want people to truly understand that. So when we understand, I wanted to say that to say this. You have to understand how that cultural aspect has created groups and cliques that has a history of patronage and nepotism. That is what has become that's how you see these people moving. And I want y'all to, before I get off the show, I'm glad I said this because I want to bring this out before I get off the show, before we close, because we're educating, we maturing us politically, we getting the political maturity that we need to start identifying some things. When you see these things like the in Cobra push for working with the mayors, and you see people working with all these executive branch level things, let me understand you what that's about. The executive branches, mayors, governors, presidents, control appointments to executive jobs on the local, state, and federal level. That is about getting jobs. So they're working for so they want the reparations, and they want to work with these mayors so that they can get access to city contracts. They're working with these governors so they can get access to state contracts and state jobs. They want to work with the president so they can get access to federal contracts and federal jobs that you get appointed. So we all seen like when the governor goes from Republican to Democrat, they clean out the state offices and they hire a whole nother people. People be sweating. They be like, "Oh my God, who's gonna win? Who's gonna win? Oh my God, I'm gonna be out of a job," because that's how powerful. That's one of the things that on the executive side, that's why people focus so much on the presidency.
That's right.
Not Congress, because it don't come with that same type of job appointment ability. So people focus on president because they know if I can just ride this horse up to Capitol Hill, I can hop off and get a job somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it's about. It's about the patronage that come with that. They get jobs, you understand? Exclusive contract. And see, in Cobra and them told on themselves all through the contract because they just got too sloppy with the language because they didn't know people like BTP and the 13% was going to be on the case, and we was going to be reading legislation and telling the people, look at this, this don't make no sense. You know what I'm saying? You don't need $12 million for a commission. No. You don't need GS 18 level pay, and your sub commissioners. Why in the world would they have the same power and authority as the actual commissioners? And why would they be able to do the get paid whatever you desire to pay them? If you ain't read the bill, go read the bill, right? So we have to understand what they're getting at. You have to watch out. So if you're not down with their program, they are so well entrenched through years of nepotism, handing jobs down to the clique that they come with, their nephews, their sons, their cousins. They all got people there whispering. So they'll be like, nah, we don't roll with him. You can't get that job. Chicago is built on nepotism. Chicago is built on patronage.
Yes, it is.
So we understand how these things work, and I want y'all to see it. So you got to identify, why are they so focused on this piecemeal reparations on the mayor? Why are mayors talking about reparations? Because they're trying to get jobs, and they're using reparations as oxygen for political fires.
That's right.
So we must be aware and be politically mature enough to see the con when it's being, and see the game when it's being ran on us. So, and we have to come up with our own games, our own plays, and our own politics, because government is the game and politics is how it's played. So we have to develop our own politics, and politics is just like your plays in the playbook. Let's say if you're playing football, we can't just be throwing Hail Marys all the time.
That's true.
Contract for Black America that Ice Cube worked with a couple people to do, I don't know, he didn't name all the so-called experts he worked with, but that's a Hail Mary play. Politics play. He's just throwing the ball up in there and throwing a whole bunch of things out there and say, whoever catch the ball, catch the ball. We don't need that. That's not the type of specificity it takes to create a reparations program that's going to be able to close the racial wealth gap and actually bring about acknowledgement, redress, and closure. It's not going to do that. So we have to be able to, like, you got to be, we need more shows like this, more shows like the 13%, and we need more people messaging, right? We got to be on the right message. We need more of a congressional focus. We have to focus on Congress, the policy makers, the people who create budgets, and the people who can direct the Fed to fund things. We have to focus and we don't have a whole lot of time. We got to do it now.
And also on our propaganda and our marketing. You know, one of the things that all ADOS need to keep up front is the fact that NARC wants to take American reparations and distribute those resources to Caribbeans and Africans. The majority of Black people are not going to go for that.
That's right. And that's why this education is so important. Brother Josh just jumped on real quick.
Okay.
We about to close it out, Brother Josh.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good, y'all. I know. I already know. I've been following it. I wasn't even gonna hop on. I just wanted to say one quick thing.
Wait, real quick. Sometimes the conversation be just getting so good. I just gotta say something, man. Yeah. I gotta get in here and say one thing. I already know what time it is. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I was ready to wrap it up, lay it down. That's why I'm not getting on camera right now. Just not gonna do it right now. But look, I gotta say shout out to ADOS California, man. They really did something powerful. Shout out to Tone,
I forgot all about
the brother Chris Lodson, all ADOS California, because man, I don't know if y'all got a chance to see, but you know, California, this as far as the state of California, had a bill to form a commission to study reparations, and they were having a hearing on the bill, but before the hearing, man, they got that bill amended. That bill had so much problematic language on it. You know, there was, I mean, you go look at the bill and just go read the original write-up, or go look at the version that's out now. I think it's called AB 3121.
Okay.
Just go look that up, and you can actually see the language in red that's struck out, and you can see the language in blue that was added, and that language in blue is the direct language that will come from somebody like a Dr. Darity, or that language that we talk about at ADOS. For example, one part of the bill was saying, this is the commission to study reparations proposals for African Americans, period. Then that part is struck out, and it says, bill to form a committee to study reparations proposals for African Americans who descend from American slavery or U.S. slavery or something like that. You know, that particular language is people that don't know enough. They will say, well, why did they do that? But then if you understand how this thing is set up, you understand the grip. And another thing that was added to the bill was, and this is probably the most powerful part, and it said something to the extent of, this reparations study proposal, any proposals that come from this commission to study this, is not going to affect any type of federal reparations proposal. Yo, that right there, it did two things. It neutralized the opportunity for anybody that had a nefarious intention of making the state study reparations bill be a reason why we can't do the federal one. You know, because if that spread and that became a trend, then you could see how that can be problematic. So that neutralized that. But then it also neutralized, you know, the people who are looking to make this a big thing to come up, like we saying, to eat off of it. So I just thought like, I got to give a shout out on that. Like, I just had to mention that.
Yeah, man, definitely. I would actually love to have the brothers and sisters from ADOS California come on the show and just build with us and just give a breakdown on that thing as well, because I think that especially in the way you just broke it down, which is what happened basically, people need to understand that what is going on is that reparations is becoming the political discussion for quote unquote Black folk in America. And when we can move that discussion to the federal level and do what those brothers and sisters got done in California with HR 40, striking out language and adding the additions that Dr. Darity has already come up with, I mean, we're just one step closer. So I would love to have our Cali family come on and build with us on one of the shows as well. So what I want to do, I want to start closing it out. Okay. So, Brother Arthur, yes, sir. If you have anything to say, then I'm gonna come to Sister Cynthia. Matter of fact, we're gonna let the sister close it out. We're gonna let the sis close out last before I take us out. So, okay. Brother Arthur, if you have anything to say, then we'll come back to you, Brother Josh, and then back to Brother Logic, and then I'll take us, and then Sister Cynthia, and I'll take us up out of here.
Well, the first thing, Brother Josh, I'm glad that you told us the news about California. That was great. And the second thing is that overall, I just want to exhort our brothers and sisters in ADOS to get more astute about politics in general, more astute about the mechanics of reparations specifically, and let's get getting in gear with engaging our legislators and getting an agenda together so that we can get what we want done. That's all I have to say.
Honors, brother. Thank you for coming on. As you sip your dark spring water.
This is Skyfall Red Blend 2017.
Whole bottle out.
Yes, I'm almost done.
He just said the age and the whole nine.
Yeah.
Okay. Sister Cynthia.
Oh yeah, and by the way, Brother Arthur has
Brother Josh, I meant to say.
great blog.
Yeah, check out Brother
site
Arthur's blog. What's the name of your blog, brother?
ADOS Absolute.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
I've read several blogs, pieces that you've put out. Excellent work, brother.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Brother. Yeah, Brother Josh, go in, bro.
Oh yeah, and he shouts out his wine at the beginning of every blog, so you kind of sets the tone to let you know what you're gonna be reading. You know? Yeah, man. But I just wanted to say so shout out to y'all, man, and then also the 13%. Y'all go like that page, subscribe.
That's right.
And check that, man. They bring some valuable content, you know, and that's how we got to do this thing, man. Everybody has some value to bring to the table. You know, we need all hands on deck to manifest these reparations, and you know, all of us have unique talents. Hopefully this show will inspire other people to go and use their talents to assist in the fight. You know, this is not about us trying to get some shine. This is about everybody putting in the effort to build the public support, to build the ADOS has made reparations a national discussion.
Yeah.
Now, even though that's the case, that national discussion it's a lot of national discussions going on. So they can get drowned out, it can get pushed. So we need to keep this at a national discussion. But also with that, we need to make a national support increase with that. So that's the next phase. The next phase, we made national discussion. We need to sustain and advance national discussion. But now we need to ramp up the efforts to build national support. And I think that's a very important piece. And that's going to require different methods. It's going to require maybe, you know, building more strong relationships. It's going to require reaching new people that haven't been reached before. It's going to require, you know, mechanizing all different type of resources. But we just got to do what we got to do. We're going to have to influence more people. And that's what this show is about. This is about building the national support of reparations, building national awareness of reparations. And we just have to salute everybody out here that's in that fight. So I want to say that, and peace to everybody.
Honest, brother.
Right on.
Matter of fact, Sister Cynthia, you could go in. I actually want Logic to close out last because this was really his show idea. So I would love for him to give his breakdown. But before I close, I'm gonna keep it short and simple. So you go in, sis. And first, I want to say honors for you coming on. You and Brother Arthur Ward. I tell people all the time, and I brought this up on the last show that you appeared on with us, that although we may have cultural different backgrounds, right? You're a atheist, I'm a Muslim. My brother Logic is more into some of the spiritual ancestral worship. We just have that at the end of the day doesn't matter. What matters is right now is ADOS politics. So you can be whatever. I don't care if you identify as LGBTQ or whatever. Right. Your politics needs to be ADOS. It needs to be about reparations. You need to be a reparationist, because I know some Black Muslims that are doing real bad, like the rest of ADOS. And I'm quite certain we can find that among the groups who identify as anything, right? So honors, for y'all coming on, because it shows that we're on a specific code, and anybody could come on this channel and we can all plug right in, because although we have different, I don't want to necessarily say cultural, but just different schools of thought. We may believe in different theologies or ideologies. Our ADOS politics is what's central to what we all believe in, and that's pushing for reparations and having a Black agenda for our people. I wanted to say that before you went in, sis.
Okay. No, most definitely. Thank you for inviting us on. I love the show, and like I said last night on our show, I said I shout out "Be the Power" every time that we go on air. Right. And the reason being is because you all are so well in tune with the climate that's happening, and you do the work to do your research to make sure that every idea and every point is fully fleshed out. And that is exactly what we need in this space. Hush, Arthur. And
it was a comment I put up. Let me put the comment back up. That's what he's laughing at.
She always thinks I'm laughing at her.
I never know. I never know. You did a pop shot at me earlier, so I'm just like, we're doing this right now, but that's okay. I still love you. I still love you, baby.
That's right, baby.
But there was a couple of points that I wanted to get to when we were discussing things, and then I'll round out to my final thoughts. When we were talking about pan-africanism and, kind of like, why is it here? And we can go through all the different inceptions that happen in history and just look at, like, some of the other players that actually brought that about. And I can understand, why our people have a tendency to really, flock to that ideology, that worldview, because we as a people have always been trying to find out who we are. And especially like, American Descendants of Slavery, because, when we were sold into slavery from West and Central Africa, brought through the transatlantic slave trade, brought through the Middle Passage, and then, arrived here, some of the first things that happen is your name got changed. Whatever type of, religious practice that you were, that you learned was completely stripped away. Oftentimes you were given a book. You weren't even getting a book because you weren't supposed to read, because reading, remember, was illegal for slaves. But if you had one of those good white, Christians who really liked you, they'll probably teach you how to read the Bible. And also too, and one day we're going to do a show on basically, the inceptions of white supremacy in the Christian church in America. I just thought about that right now, and I think it really needs to be discussed. And even Chris Rock said is that, if you're a Christian in America and you're Black, you have a really short, I think he said, you have a really short knowledge of history. And the thing about it is that all those particular things have been thrusted upon us, and as far as like stripping us away from what we knew previously. And now we are in this great experiment called America, and still trying to find out exactly who are we really. And that's what caused us to, we need to look at the motherland, or we need to buy dashiki, or we need to do Wakanda forever, or all these other different things. But that's not who we are. That is not who we are. When we arrived here after being sold, not kidnapped people, we were sold into slavery by other elites, kings and queens that you all love to say that we came from. They sold us into slavery to Europeans. I'm not going to say it the way the young Pharaoh, he said Europeans, right? Europeans.
Not the British, the Dutch, and the Portuguese, right?
Right.
And then the Europeans.
No, those are not the Europeans, he said, right?
European, right,
okay,
right.
all right.
Sure.
Just making sure.
Ooh, child. Back to what I was saying. We have to understand that when all that happened, and then we came here, and then developed our entire culture, ourselves as a people, and all these different inceptions came through slavery. And then we came through Jim Crow. By the time that we've been here for so long, we were no longer African. We were no longer African. We are something completely different.
That's right.
And that's one of the reasons why I love the term ADOS. I love American Descendants of Slavery. I don't necessarily love the institution, but I have to acknowledge that slavery was our shared experience as a collective, as a culture, as a people. regardless of what you believe, regardless of, and even like when I remember I had some of my other fellow atheists in the atheist Black community give me crap because I was posting pictures of being at St. Stephen's Church when we went to the ADOS conference last October. And they said, why are you over there? Why are you over there? And I said, listen, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. And you just said it, Naheem, Brother Naheem. I'm an atheist. Yes, I'm even a Buddhist. We talked about that too. Mm-hmm. But I'm Black first. None of those. I'm Black
B1, baby.
That's who I am. And I'm a descendant of American chattel slavery. And that is the thing that rules my worldview, not being an atheist, not even being a Buddhist. These are, atheist just means that I don't believe in a God. Buddhist means that I follow a certain philosophy to guide my life. But my politics and who I am and everything that's about me is completely ran by my lineage. Mm-hmm. Completely. That's right. And, that's right. And that's why, even though I can understand, and I even wrote a blog about, who are we really when I talked about Pan-Africanism. And I even said that Pan-Africanism is appreciable because I understand where it came from, but it is not operational. Africa's not even Pan.
Right.
It's not Pan.
That's right. That's right.
54 countries, over 2,000, over 3,000 different tribes speaking over 2,000 different languages. And they are very much so held in captive by what their tribe is first and then country. Okay, that's how the majority of different Africans think when they are in their particular enclaves. Okay, so it makes no sense for us here to look at a continent for identity that we have not been connected to for over 400 years. So I would encourage our people to really understand and learn history about who we are as a people here. Really learn the political process, because it only way that we can be effective in this space is when we really learn civics, learn government, learn how bills become law, and even take the time to learn who your state and local representatives are. Learn if you are in different municipalities, learn who your aldermen are. If you have aldermen, learn who your parish representatives are. Learn all these particular people, learn who your judges are, because all of those particular inceptions rule your life. They really do. And also too, if you identify with ADOS, get involved with their ADOS chapters. Please get involved with your ADOS chapters and learn in the midst of that how to work local equity and then federal reparations, because those are two different things. And I just want to just say this as well. I'm hoping that through these particular shows like Be the Power, through 13%, even with Yvette Carnell and also with Antonio Moore and others, that more of us wake up to who we really are and get activated so that we can really make a true change for ourselves and our community. And that's all I got to say.
Indeed, Brother Logic.
Yes, that was a great closing statement, sister. Great, outstanding. So I want to first thank Brother Arthur Ward and Sister Cynthia McDonald for blessing our show with their presence and their knowledge and their wisdom and their understanding. And, I got a special place for them in my heart because they from Chicago, obviously. You know what I mean? So I love them. And I believe we'll be on their program Monday, right? Is that right?
That's right.
So everybody that's tuning in, right? Check us out Monday. We're going to be on their program. Look out for the flyers, look out for the times and all of that. We're going to be doing it up again because when we get together, it's just family. We just family. You know what I mean? We just family and having a good old ADOS discussion about what needs to be done and what time it is.
So to continue further with what the sister was talking about, the importance of what we're doing in this political space, she talked about getting informed about who your aldermen are and things like that. Because if you want to be a reparationist, you're going to have that political maturity. You can't say that you're involved in this fight and you don't know who your alderman is. You don't even know who your school board representatives are. You don't even know what senatorial or representative district you live in. You can't even play the game. You don't even know what field you're on. You have to start understanding the basics of the game and what position you are and what type of political landscape you live in. So you need to know who your senator is. You need to know who your representative, not just the ones at Capitol Hill, but you need to know who is representing you in your General Assembly, because all of that plays a part. You understand? So you have to be you got to know who I'm talking about basics. Know who your fire chief is. Know who your sheriff is. These are things that citizens are supposed to know. We live in a democratic republic. That means voting and representation. So we need to vote and know who is representing us, and we need to be on them. We need to be on that job. It should be hard. There should be a whole lot of pressure on that type of job. You represent me. I need to know how you represent me. So you got to look at it like that. You have to look at this thing very personal. Like this person, you can't look at it like this is some person on TV or whatever they down there doing their business and yada yada. That person is representing you. You need to take it personal how they represent you. You need to be on their phone calling them. You need to be looking up what their email is and emailing them. You need to, if you're in Chicago, you go on travel a couple hours down to Springfield and see what's going on in the General Assembly. And the galleries are open to the public. The committees are open to the public. This is your business as citizens. Go to your city council meetings. They have public and private meetings. The public meetings are posted in most places on their website. You need to start being engaged in citizens. Engaged as citizens. We got to stop trying to the day that we just raising our kids to be entertainers they need to be over. If COVID ain't taught us nothing, it taught us that. So we need to get engaged in politics. We don't need to be trying to raise the next LeBron Jameses. We need to be raising the next Clayton Powells. You know what I mean? So the next Oscar Dupree's. So we must understand what moment we're in and what it takes. It takes political action. So I always say on the show, and I'm going to say it again, that government is the game and politics is how it's played. And politics is the science of who gets what, when, where, and how. So if you want to be concerned or you want to take control about who gets what you get, where you're going to get it, and how you're going to get it, and how much of it you're going to get, you need to get involved. And if you're going to be effective, you need to be educated. And if you're going, after you get that educated, you need to get some experience. So go down there and get involved. Become a poll watcher. Become a ballot counter. Become a election judge. Get involved wherever you can. You need to be doing it with the utmost urgency, because the largest problems in our life right now are social and economic.
Right.
And if we don't get a hold on those things, we're going to be an extinct people. We have been endangered ever since we got here. And if we don't get a hold on this racial wealth gap, we're going to be extinct. So understand the time. We have to seize it now. We are at Brother Josh talked about it, and he said we cannot. There's a lot of national discussions, and the people who spearheaded this movement fought valiantly to get us here. We all have to do our part. You understand? We cannot get drowned out. We cannot allow to be in a Hail Mary situation where we only had one play. We have to come up with multiple plays, multiple tactics. And now we talked about on this show that we have a congressional focus now, because they thought that pressure that ADOS put on that presidential election, they can get some of that pressure too. They need to understand that. They can get some of that. So understand that there is work enough for all of us to do. And we need to be serious and very serious about doing it. Because I don't play with my politics, and I don't want nobody to play with theirs. All right. So catch us Monday. We're going to be bringing the same energy on my family show. We're going to do a South Side thing again, and it's gonna be beautiful, right? So I'm gonna let y'all go. But I am a reparationist. I know Sister Cynthia is a reparationist. Brother Ward is a reparationist. Big Nah, he's a reparationist for sure. My man Josh came on. He's a reparationist. Our brother Ali, he can't be on tonight, but he's definitely a reparationist too. And we trying to make reparationists out of you. So join the party, family. And with that, I say peace.
Definitely, I mean, we going on 3 hours. Usually I'm very time conscious. I have to be. When you hosting a show, I've done blog talk radio before. This was just one of those discussions that, I mean, it felt like we could just go on for another hour, to be honest with you. And those type of discussions are always the best, in my opinion. So I want to give a shout out again to Brother Arthur Ward and Sister Cynthia McDonald for just coming on and building with us. And shout out to ADOS in general. Everybody that runs with that particular acronym that's pushing for reparations, the Reparationists, right? And the thing about being a reparationist, and I said this on one of the shows, is you don't have to be ADOS to be a reparationist. But if you are ADOS, you should definitely be a reparationist. And I'm converting people all over the place. I got people in my inbox hitting me up. I want to learn more. I want to know. Oh, I got you. Chill. Be easy. I got you. Here, read this and then get back to me. This is From Here to Equality. I'm almost finished the book. I'm like, man, that person all passed me already. Right? So yeah, we're moving this discussion forward, family. Politics is, I had a person ask me yesterday, well, why do you want to get into politics? I said, well, that's where the power is.
Right.
It's just as simple as that. We have been a powerless people in this nation for a long time. We exhibit the qualities of power in our freedom fighting. It is how we were able to loosen many shackles, literal and proverbial ones. But now it is time to transform or transfer that power into the place where the game of power is being played at, and that is the political theater. And I know for myself, I'm thinking about, I was on with two sisters from Atlanta ADOS yesterday. We were building about a conference that they had with the group. I think I may have wrote it down. I wrote it down somewhere. I don't know where it's at, but the National Reparations Summit, and they, they were telling me that, but just building with the sisters, it made me want to move to Atlanta. I'm not in Atlanta, and help with ADOS in Atlanta as well. Somebody posted in the chat that ADOS in Atlanta is in shambles, not the group, but meaning our people, the politics.
Right.
So I'm definitely mulling that move. It is time for us to get involved at a real serious level. We made the case, and I want to share this real quick, just for a couple seconds, because this is vital. This is how you become an active citizen. This is find your representative. And this comes from the house.org. Okay. Right. And I'm going to punch in my old zip code, my old New York zip code, 11693. And let's see what comes up. So we have Mr. Gregory W. Meeks, who he was the city councilman when I lived in Queens, New York. So now we see that he is in the 5th Congressional District of New York. I actually had a conversation with the brother when he came to the neighborhood trying to solicit votes for some sister that was running at that time. We had a very, very powerful conversation, but this is just some of the basics that you can do. Find your representative. These are the people who represent you at the federal level. And if you are a reparationist, you need to have and be on the heels, rather, of your representative and let him know we need reparations, a broad reparations package. As our representative, is this something that you are trying to push for our people? Do you feel that it's needed? Ask the questions. Ask in an intelligent tone, and I'm sure you will receive a favorable reply. And even if it's an unfavorable reply, ADOS has given us enough intellectual ammunition to spot it, and now we can start rallying people and boosting up candidates who are reparationists, and let those representatives know we coming for that seat, buddy. And we are coming for that seat, and we can start putting reparationists in those seats. So I don't want to be long-winded. We had a powerful discussion tonight. Somebody said put the link in the chat. Let me put that in there before I sign off, because this is vital information, family. We have to be on it. There's not a lot of us that are doing this. It's a few of us, but us few have to be the one that lead and move the masses. So we got to find a way to get to the streets, and the only way we can do that is by being grassroots and stop trying to feed our people the fantasy, this RBG, fantastical Wakanda stuff, because they're not going to respond to that. They're going to respond to real, boom, this is what it is, family. When you see people like King Face and they're having debates with people like my son, who I've never heard say reparations, but
Never.
He's an activist, right? And they're having a debate. See, we need reparationists in the place, in that space, shouting this dude down. Like, you ain't going to out-talk or over-talk me, dude, with your false information. You don't represent me or my people. You actually need to shut up. See, I'm just the type of dude that'll say that to your face, point blank, period. So it is what it is. And let me close out with the show's motto before I start the rambling on, and because I'm ready to say some more stuff, right, about that right there. Because I want to say I seen a video with this dude King Face, this Black Republican immigrant of immigrant background, Haitian background, where he's dissing our people. I mean, absolutely disrespecting America's descendants of slavery. Then he's in a video with my son, and my son don't know what to say because he doesn't have this particular political education that we have. I'm gonna shut him down easy, and anybody from ADOS that would have been there would have shut that guy down. So this is what this channel is for. This is what the 13% is for. This is what the book From Here to Equality has been published for. This is what Yvette Carnell Breaking Brown channel is for. Antonio Moore's Tone Talks channel is for. And ADOS California, I believe, if I'm saying it right, or ADOS LA, their channel is for. All of the content creators that's coming out, that are producing content, follow them, y'all, especially if they represent your area. And I'm going to end with the motto of the show, and that is, don't just fight the power, become the power. Then and only then will you have the power to make a change. With that,